The views, comments, stories, and opinions shared within this podcast are our own, or those of our guests, and in no way represent the views of the companies, associations, or organizations that any of us may work for or represent. All stories, events, and tales shared within this episode may or may not have happened in the manner in which they were told. They may or may not have even happened at all. The details have been changed to protect the innocent and the guilty alike. This is Squawk Ident. You're listening to Squawk Ident, an aviation podcast that explores the many pathways to an aviation profession, the challenges that a professional aviator can expect in today's marketplace, and we share many stories along the way. I'm your host, Aviator Tony, a professional airline pilot currently flying for a U.S. legacy airline with over 20 years on the flight line. Welcome aboard Flight 151 of the Squawk Ident Podcast, recorded on the 12th of July, 2025, from the mobile Aviator Sound Studios from high atop the 16th floor of the Hyatt Regency Embarcadero in the city by the bay, home to Levi Strauss, Rice-A-Roni, Anchor Brewing Company, Dolby Labs, Lucasfilm, Industrial Light and Magic, The Gap, Banana Republic, and so many more. On today's flight, Alex and I will discuss our hiatus, the ATC Zero events that sometimes happen when you're out on the flight line, possible pilot deviations, advise when ready to copy phone number, flight deck distractions, and we'll also talk about schedules, stub flights, charted reroutes, and commuting. So stick with us as we discuss all this and more on this, the 151st episode of the Squawk Ident Podcast. Well, joining me today is an outstanding aviator and Squawk Ident co-host. He is a former U.S. Navy Reserve's Chief Information Systems Technician, a certified flight instructor, and Embraer 175 captain for Sandpiper Regional, the alias one of Legacy Airlines' wholly owned regional airlines. Joining us on a rainy day off from his home studio in Lubbock, Texas. Please help me in welcoming to the show, Captain Alex D. Alex, how you doing?
You know, it's weird to still hear that. Like I get called captain in the terminal or whatnot now, and I'm like, me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's right, that's me. So, but no, I'm good. Just got another day off before I start a 4-day coming up tomorrow. But it's good. Life's good. You know, can't complain. We'll talk more about our hiatus schedule and going into all that stuff later. But I'm good.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. And you're getting excited as well.
Yeah.
Big date coming up.
Yeah. So they've got her scheduled for an induction on the 1st, which is, according to the baby tracker, 2 weeks and 4 days now.
Bro. Well,
yeah.
Enjoy it. Enjoy your time off when it comes. And, those moments last a lifetime. Just, try not to pass out in the delivery room.
I've already told her, like, I'm like the lower half. No, I'm staying up near your head. I'll turn around. I'll hold your hands. I'll wipe your head. I ain't going down there. I've already been scarred by what's that movie? No, Knocked Up.
Oh yeah. Just peek over the curtain. It's okay. Just it's a beautiful thing. It's life, it's
Yeah, I know it is. And I've watched the Ace Ventura scene from whatever movie that was, of the giving birth scene out of the rhino.
Well, I tell you what, practice, make sure you're getting the right mindset. Avoid words like ew, gross, oh God, I just threw up in my mouth. Not something your significant other wants to hear during the birth of your child that she carried for 9 months. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I'm just glad finally that, when she goes through birth, that she'll understand what it's like when I have a cold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, no one
It's about
can
equal.
ever,
On par.
yeah, I think that, like, we're just slightly worse, but, she's giving me the stink eye and the stink face over there. Actually, I don't even think she's paying attention anymore.
Yeah.
Middle finger came up, so we're
nice. You're number one. So we've been on a kind of a hiatus here on the show. I know it's kind of a broken record. We've been talking about schedules and everything that's happening. And it really has been difficult to find the time where we can all carve it out. Everyone's got something going on. I know Roger has been flying like a madman. He's newly typed in the G8, Gulfstream 8. So he's going to, or 800 or whatever it's called. And I'm going to wait for him to come back on the show and talk about his training on that and the schedules for that on the corporate side of things. We had a beautiful long discussion the other day about his schedule and flying, being gone for a week or weeks on end, and the locations that he's going to is just phenomenal.
I was gonna say he probably got some good locations, even though he's gone for a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah, like he's like international all the way, and his long flights, and he's getting more and more responsibility at work, so he's really enjoying himself with that. And he's got his family schedule as well on top of everything. So, and then plus Rob, his ladies, his girls are constantly evolving and growing and in college, and he's moving his daughter into her first apartment today, so he couldn't make it. But I mean, so many exciting things. And then Terry, he sent me a message as well saying, "Hey, if I can join you, I will." And but today is like his only day off with the family, and I told him, "No, no, family first."
Mhm.
Um, so it just this is the life of an aviator. And sometimes, when you don't have much going on outside of work, you can spend the time to do these podcasts and hobbies. And some people go fishing, and some people go boating, and some people go to the gun range or whatever they do, go play around at golf. You know, others do their best to develop a podcast and talk about stuff. So, but then when other stuff gets in the way, obviously, that this is our lives. So I'm very grateful to you, Alex, for carving out the time to join me today. I know it's been a while, so it's kind of nice to dust off the feathers and kind of soar again.
You were telling me, like I remember I ran into Keithan. The oh god, it's been probably just as the last episode came out, so however long ago that was. And he's like, "You guys aren't recording much anymore," and I'm like, our schedules are tough, man. Like we just got there's a lot going on between all of us. Like, and he as a listener is not upset. One of our like 8 listeners, they get it. The tried and true people who have been with this podcast for a while,
Yeah,
they understand that it's just tough when you're managing. There's what 5 of us that are consistently on this show, and it's hard to manage.
yeah,
Airline schedules as it is to do stuff on your off time, like let alone go, oh hey, let's carve out a 2 3 hour block to record a podcast.
yeah. And it's also a testament to how this job is very cyclical, not only with the nature of, you know, schedules and seniority and everything else, but it's also cyclical economically. So, when times are good, there's plenty of flying to be had, plenty of time off. Schedules are good because you can hold a line because there's a lot of movement. And then when times are not so good, you have the risk of furlough and you get crap schedules. And I think we're in a weird transition phase. For many months, we were talking about how this is a rebirth to the golden age of aviation, and how anybody can just, they have a certificate in their back pocket there, can pretty much write their ticket anywhere they want to go. And for a while there after COVID, that's exactly the industry. It was really bouncing back in a way that we haven't seen since the 70s and 80s, when there was a hiring boom. Well, with that hiring boom that happened in the 80s in the airline industry in the United States, there was a lot of former military pilots being hired in their early 30s. Well, guess what? They're now getting really close to 65. And, the boom that we saw with COVID, people were upgrading within months. It was ridiculous. People never having sat reserve and moving on to major airlines real quick. Alex is exactly.
That was my entire class. Like my entire class from Indoc was if you basically breathed and fogged a mirror up, right? Like you could upgrade as quick as you could. You could, I mean, some of these guys were going to, I have a couple buddies who are at United because they got their 750 and they're gone. Like
Yeah.
United scooped them up and took them. And one of the guys I know, he spent I think it was a year and some change at United, and that was enough to get through training and get like to the initial stuff. But they instantly took him into upgrade at United on the 7-3. So like here he is, if he's a couple years younger than me, already a captain at a major airline.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
that was that golden, what Tony's talking about, that golden era that we were seeing again. And then,
Yeah. So now we're kind of, it's not that we're in a lull because, all the flights are full and, the schedules are crazy and even on reserve, you're going to fly your butt off. At least over at Legacy Airlines, that's the way it is right now. And
it's
Terry was telling me over at Transglobal, same thing. And I have friends over at some of the others, and they're all saying, yeah, schedules are crazy, layovers are short, we're all kind of tired, but the money's good. So who's going to complain? Well, some people complain, but and others, like I flew with a young man who was a little bit younger than me, and we used to fly together at Sandpiper, and he was in the right seat, and I was in the left seat, and I was like, "Hey, man, aren't you going to upgrade soon?" Or he's like, "No, man, I make really good money from the right seat. I play the premium, VMAX game with my friends. I'm in this little uh, LAX first officer mafia of guys on a group text, and we drop trips to each other so that we can maximize our schedules." And he's like, "And I got a baby on the way, and I'm got a newborn at home, and so why would I upgrade now and be at the bottom of the list and be
yeah.
on reserve like you?" And I'm like, "Great." And he goes, "Anyway, I make more money than you." I'm like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "Yeah, from the right seat with playing the game of conflict bidding and all this." He goes, I'm pulling in enough to where I'm competitive with a captain around my same seniority." And I was just like, not shocked, but impressed. And so he explained how he does it, and he goes, "Right now is the time to do it. They are cutting back so much, and I know our company and there's other companies out there as well that have used what now everyone's the buzzword is AI, right? I can't stand it personally, but because that's how what's the name of that company from Terminator?
Oh, Skynet.
Yeah, so that's how Skynet started, So AI and mark my words, the people that come up with these imagination and write these sci-fi novels, it's not because they just made it up in their head, because I believe that no human living on this planet has had an original thought. I think it's all from past lives, their souls, and on other dimensions, other multiverses that they've lived through it, and they write about it. And does life imitate art, or does art imitate life? You know, I think Skynet's going to happen. Yes, be careful. We need you, Neo. So,
All I'm saying is Idiocracy is turning into a documentary, not a farce, a
and
satire.
thank you for mentioning that. If you have not seen this film from the early 2000s, Idiocracy, it stars, I believe, Owen Wilson. No, Luke Wilson, his brother. Luke Wilson and Maya Rudolph. They play a couple of people that he's an army librarian that was living the most boring average life, and they couldn't find a female soldier, so they pulled a prostitute off the street. Anyway, they put him in a
It's funny. It's not that.
they put him in a like a suspension or cryogenic chamber, and the program was supposed to be a year, but of course the commanding officer got involved with the pimp, that they became friends, and he was dishonorably discharged, and the project got shelved. Well, these two humans got shelved for, what was it, like 500 years, and then they wake up in the future and society has changed.
And everybody's an idiot.
Society changed to what we're seeing here on the horizon. So, yeah, and great underline with this movie, Idiocracy, is like they had to like show like really stupid shoes, right? So the producers are like, "Hey, there's this company. I think they're from Colorado, and they're making shoes out of foam rubber." And there it is. And the director was like, "Yeah, but what if these shoes take off and become actually really popular? And then the whole point is to make these shoes look like ridiculous in the film." And he goes, "No, no, this is never gonna get off. This is the fad. It's not gonna get off the ground." And like you're holding up Crocs right now. Just a little fun fact, Wikipedia that film before you watch it. It's great, but
I honestly, like, I used to be so anti-croc, and like they're just they're comfy, man. Like once you put them on for the first
Hey,
time, and
wearing them, like if you're a nurse and you're in a a hospital all day long, or you're at the house and you're wearing Crocs. Hey, good on you, man. They're comfy. They are. I've worn a pair before. I don't personally own one, but I've worn them. And but like to go out on the street where there's like glass and nails and
Crocs aren't bad. I'm gonna plug Crocs and then I'll leave. They're not
uh,
bad. They're comfy. I treat them like flip flops. They're comfy. I like them.
and don't judge my recording in progress. So
Hey,
no,
fair
but
enough. We're
I
we're good.
digress. I digress. So yeah, so schedules have been crazy.
Yeah.
They've been optimized. They're using AI. The companies are using AI to optimize the schedules, meaning they get the most productivity out of not just pilots, but flight attendants, gate agents, ramp agents, maintenance. I mean, like everything's been optimized using AI, and I love it when like we have the state of the airline. These like miniature in-house video conference recording. They call them podcasts. They're not podcasts, but they're intercompany podcasts. Let's put them that way. And they have the CEO, and he's up there and he's talking about how we're now changing the customer experience. We've used generative AI to ask them how we can make our airline better. And they've AI told us that we shouldn't be so focused on getting out on time, and that we can actually make the decision to hold flights for late connecting passengers, especially when it's the last flight of the day.
Takes a hell of a day to stop sniffing
And
glue.
it's a good thing they spent millions of dollars to use generative AI instead of just asking a freaking anyone, a pilot, a passenger. Like last night, we're supposed to push off the gate in Dallas, and Dallas to San Francisco, last flight of the night, 10 p.m. departure. Late in, no, the airplane was there all day, so it wasn't about the airplane, but it was late flight attendants. They didn't have any flight attendants for this flight because I guess the original crew misconnected or was delayed. So they called some reservists. Well, they had a few reserves at the airport, but the rest they were able to call from home. And one of them, like, just hurried to get to the airport, but still, we had to delay the flight about 45 minutes um, because they're just going to be late. They just they got called from home at the last second. They ran out of airport standbys. So we were there. I briefed the two flight attendants that I had, and then eventually a third. And then they decided, okay, this person's on their way. Crew scheduling confirmed it. We're going to call a flight attendant that happens to be on airport standby that's not legal to do the rest of this trip that this person was given. So we're going to just have them come and do what they call pre-boarding.
Yep.
And you guys have that over there too. Most airlines have it. So they'll use flight attendants that are on standby to come and get on the aircraft because they have to have a minimum crew before they start boarding. And they get paid a little extra to do this. They come on the aircraft and they basically are stand-ins for the flight attendant that's working the trip. And if the flight attendant that's working the trip doesn't show up by the time it's time to go, crew scheduling can then make the assessment and say, okay, the stand-in is going to fly the leg out, and then we'll deadhead him back in the morning or deadhead him back at the end of the day, whatever they're legal for. And that's kind of what happened last night. And my first officer goes, "What? Do we get a new flight attendant? Is this?" And I'm like, "No, it's a pre-boarder." And I was like, "Oh, they're pre-boarding?" And you're like, "No, a pre-board." So we were talking about he had heard this term before. So that's an option that you might see. Sometimes you'll see four flight attendants, but then before you take off, one of those flight attendants left, and now we have the new one. And that's usually what happens in that scenario. And this is all in an effort to get out as close to on time as possible. Well, we were already delayed due to the scheduling issue with minimum crew. And then we were ready to go. Right? We're pretty much boarded up. And I'm like, why are we not leaving? I keep getting notifications on my tablet about how we're delayed, 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there. So I step off the airplane and go talk to the number one flight attendant, who they all have their tablets now,
Mhm.
just like pilots. They have a little handheld tablet. It's basically an iPhone with a case around it that they can accept credit card payments. So I'm like, what's going on? Are we waiting for late passengers or connections? And she's like, yeah, according to the tablet in Microsoft Teams, which is how the gate agents now, instead of walking down to the bottom of the jet bridge, and saying, "Are you ready to board?" or going, "Hey, do you need any ice or do you have everything?" They just chat with each other, gate to aircraft with Microsoft Teams on their company devices. And so she's chatting back and forth with the gate agent in operations, and they're like, "Yeah, we're waiting for 12 more connecting passengers that were delayed." And I'm sitting there, and so I'm kind of giving the intel I'm receiving, I'm kind of passing it along to my first officer. I made a PA saying, "Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's we're the last flight of the night, and so in an effort to get everybody home tonight, we're gonna just wait another 10 minutes before we probably push off the gate and get all our connecting passengers." And most passengers are very positive about that because most people think, well, shit, if it was me, yeah, that's awesome.
Mm.
There are always those who are going, "Oh, I can't believe we're waiting for, if they're not, if they can't be here on time, then I wish I could just leave them." Which was basically the philosophy of Legacy Airlines and all its subsidiaries for many, many years, because their departure plus zero was like the most important thing,
Yep.
and arrival plus 14 whenever possible. So what that is the DOT tracks your departure time and your arrival time, because every airline is slotted for each flight. And if you are continuously or consistently delayed on your departure time, the DOT will fine you, saying, "Hey, you booked this flight for the next 3 months to be departing at 10 p.m. And we are scheduling our air traffic control system around these scheduled departures and arrivals, and the en route structure is dependent upon everything being spaced out so that they don't get overwhelmed in the air inc centers at a certain time." So you have to, bid for these slot times, is what they call them, right? So when you're consistently late, the airline gets fined. And it's 20 years with Legacy in one way, shape, or form, or its subsidiaries, and it's was like the holy grail: be out on time, be out on time, be out on time. The gate agents would get reprimanded, and some even got written up if they caused a delay in the flight. But now generative AI has determined that we should probably just hold off on being out on time, because it's more important for the customer experience to show them that we care.
I know that at least in our systems, right? Like the Sandpiper systems. I think in the outstations that we go to, gate agents only get like 3 times for them to push a plane late before they're.
Yeah. Yeah, they get 3 strikes.
Yeah, which is nuts, because sometimes it's not anything to do with the gate agent or what's going on or anything like that. It's like the computer systems getting our numbers, getting, passengers seated on the airplane so we can close the door on an on-time departure, but yet it falls onto the gate agent. And like, and
Yeah.
I feel bad for him, because like that, 3 strikes you're out at an outstation for us. I don't know how it is in the DF and W, or in any of the hubs that we go to, but like that's terrible. That's a terrible way, and that's why a lot of these gate agents are so like, let's go.
Yeah.
You have a 30-minute turn. We have to get you out in 30 minutes.
Right. Well, we have um I guess it's a chart that all operations and all the subsidiary departments have. And the chart says, okay, at this 15 minutes prior, this is where you should be. At 10 minutes prior, like every department, this is where you should be. And then we're supposed to close the door on domestic flights 10 minutes prior to departure time.
Yep.
Hard and fast rule. So, granted, people have connections. And if the legacy.com, you know, website allowed me to book a flight in Chicago as a a connecting hub in 45 minutes, and it was allowed. It was a legal reservation. And one flight is delayed by 10 minutes and you're in row 37D or whatever, like you're in the back of the bus. And now you're waiting, it's like 30 minutes to deplane. Now you've got like 5 minutes to run across 3 concourses
And
to get
literally run. This is why you see people sprinting in through the terminals.
sprinting, with babies in tow and luggage and everything else. And they're running through the terminal. Then they get to the new gate and, they start boarding 45 prior. So they started boarding when you landed.
Yep.
And then now, you're there, you're huffing and puffing, you're sweating. You got the kids in tow, babies are crying, and they just shut the door right in front of you. And go, sorry, but that plane's right there. So sorry. And then you wonder why they do this a lot at some of the low cost carriers. Like, sorry, boom, clutch the door. And then they go, but the plane's right there. And now you know why there's these fist fights and YouTube and TikTok videos of people losing their shit. Absolutely losing their shit. And I mean, it's not right, and I don't condone it, but sometimes I don't blame them. Like, it's like, oh, but then at the same time, I think, well, you booked this flight knowing you're going to walk through Atlanta or Chicago or
Charlotte.
Dallas. Charlotte is like
Charlotte's the worst.
can of sardines.
Charlotte's a 30-minute walk to land from where we land to go to one of the mainline gates. Like, it's a 30-minute walk.
Yeah, no joke. And if you're like, if you're a slow walker or not feeling too good today, it's a struggle. It's a workout. And so for the fact that the companies now are doing their best to kind of accommodate their passengers, their customers, at the end of the day, we have a job, and it's to get people and cargo from point A to point B. And if we can do that on time, obviously that's a win-win for everyone. And sometimes there's weather, sometimes there's mechanicals, sometimes there's, crew members not connecting, crew members timing out. There's a myriad of things that would cause a flight to be delayed, whether it's insignificant or significant. All these things happen. And I think I applaud Legacy at this point for just this month, like starting July 1st. And last night I saw it in action. I'm like, why aren't we leaving? Well, we're waiting for 12 more. Oh, we're waiting for 5 more. Or we're waiting for 2 more. And then we finally pushed off the gate about an hour late. We could have pushed off the gate about 30 minutes late.
Well,
if we would have left right when that flight attendant showed up and was able to get ready and do their safety check and go. But
the thing that gets me with doing this, and I'm not saying that I don't agree with it. I think that, especially on these last flights of the night, like you're saying, from DFW to San Francisco, that's a 3+ hour flight. You know what I mean? Like, and these people have probably been traveling all day, and like all they want to do is just get back to San Francisco. I get it. But like the thing that gets me with doing a hold the plane, what if you're on, this is leg 3 for you in that day, and you're coming close to timing out with your duty time, and they're holding the plane just so they can get these passengers on, but you now time out.
See, and that's what operations is all about. That's why they have the generative AI to figure out which flight they're going to go ahead and hold off and delay to get the passengers at the last flight of the night, and which flights that they just can't hold off because a crew member or multiple crew members are getting close to the FAR 117 limit for pilots or their 121 limits for flight attendants. So it's at least there's flexibility now and common sense. And that's really what I'm trying to get at is there's some hope for common sense here. How many times have you sat either in the terminal waiting for an aircraft or at the hotel watching a thunderstorm come through and delay the flight that they haven't left their destination yet. So now you're changing band times and then you hear it either in the back of your recesses of your mind, and maybe you vocalize it, or maybe the crew member sitting next to you says it. God, I wish they would just cancel so that we can just like go home, or maybe they'll cancel and dead us back to base and I can stay home with pay for 3 days. And I mean, every single person in this industry I've heard that from at some point or another, until one time years ago, I heard a captain say something to the effect of, it's funny, we live and die by seniority. And seniority only gets better when people come in under you and the people above you move on. And that'll only happen when times are good.
Mm-hmm.
And times are good when the company is filling every seat and the demand is high. If we start canceling continuously because, hey, the crew member wanted to just didn't want to feel like flying to Buffalo today, or, oh, I'm getting close to timing out. Let's delay this flight 10 more minutes so I can time out and be illegal for the rest of my trip. If everybody did that, the company would not succeed.
Nope, not at all.
Their reliability and dependability would be down. Passengers would seek, like, hey, if you're gonna get there, you want to fly on these carriers. If there, but don't get me wrong, that model does work. You have ultra low cost carriers out there that, you know, um, that they do it, and people buy tickets anyway,
Mhm.
even though they're may or may not get there today or tomorrow or when they intended. Um, but it does stand out as when we do well, when we get our people from, when we go out of our way to get people where they're going and come out of the flight deck every once in a while, make a pee and go, folks, look, there's a thunderstorm that's heading our way. We did our best to get out, but unfortunately now we're in a ground stop, as I did 3 days ago in Philadelphia. We were talking back and forth online with that. Um, and if you communicate every 15 minutes, give a PA. Don't apologize profusely and say, "Oh, we're really sorry about this." No, just, keep the people informed and make sure that they feel like you're on their side.
Mhm.
Then people will have a positive outlook, and then your job, your career, your seniority, your quality of life will improve. But if we allow our coworkers to just spew out those, "Oh, you should call out fatigue because I don't feel like going there today," irks me every time. They just don't get it.
Like I know that we all joke about it, like, oh man, it's feeling pretty fatiguing today. Like I might call out. Like I know we joke about it, but like I understand where the companies are coming from. I understand where the passengers are coming from. I get it on both perspectives. And Tony's right. Like as a captain and as the one who's in charge of everything, like we get so many things from our company, Sandpiper, not Legacy, that they're like, people just want to be informed. Like they 90% of them don't listen to you anyways. So like it's the 10% that actually are taking out their earbuds when, they hear the PA come on. But they just want to be informed. They want to know what's going on, why we're sitting, why we're not moving, what's going on. Like, oh, I feel us doing a donut in the sky. Why are we doing donuts in the sky? Like all they really want to know is just to know. They have
Yeah.
no clue. They actually have no clue what's going on. They just want to know why they're sitting.
Yeah. So, this is it's a good thing, I think, that I'm seeing here now, this new trend that where we may not outperform the next carrier, but we're going to try to out customer service them.
Sorry, did I say the quiet parts out loud on that? Hey man, that super regional that we're trying to be between Dallas, Charlotte, and Miami. We're that area is going to be hit hard with us.
I know it. I know it. But so yeah, so that's what we've been up to lately. And busy. Still flying the line. For me personally, I know we talked to Alex a little bit about what you have going on, which obviously is
Oh,
a game changer for you. And congratulations again. I'm sure our listeners, or all five of them, are very happy for you. Um, and for me, it was, as we discussed on the last episode, which was, gee, back in April. Um, that, I'm moving into a new house and, doing contractors and swinging a hammer, and I painted the house myself because I didn't want to spend the 12 grand on getting a house painted. So I just went out and bought five 5 gallon buckets of paint and a paint sprayer, and got up on a ladder, and my wife and I just knocked it out.
oh my
So
god!
yeah,
You're better man than I am because in
yeah.
in my old house, like we painted our bedroom, and I say we hired somebody to paint our
Oh,
bedroom.
you're hired. Yeah, I love when people go, "Yeah, we just remodeled the bathroom and we did the kitchen." I'm like, "Oh, well, what kind of materials did you use?" "I don't know, whatever the contractor said." I'm like, "Oh, so you hired
Yeah,
someone
yeah,
to?" Okay,
yeah.
okay. And there's not that there's anything wrong with that. No. Um,
I mean, there's something to be said of doing the work yourself and having the pride and ownership and doing all that, right? But at the end of the day, especially with our schedules being as it is, like sometimes
yeah,
it's a little tough to carve out, 2, 3 days to be able to, paint the house or,
yeah,
add in. Like we were talking yesterday about your sidewalk project, or you're not sidewalk
Yeah.
project, but your concrete pad.
Yeah.
But
hmm
you know, you and you're
Well, that I hired out. So, because that was three full cement trucks that came.
yeah. Well, but that's what I'm saying is like if you would have done that on your own, like that would have
Oh,
taken you a week, if
it
not
would,
longer.
oh, it would have taken me like a year. No, so yeah, the work on the houses are always there's always going to be stuff to do. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. And here's a staggering statistic. So I was chatting with my chief pilot a few months back, telling him how I'm painting the house soon and getting up on a ladder and stuff. And he goes,
LA or Phoenix chief pilot.
"This was L.A. because before I came over to Phoenix, which I've been now in Phoenix for about 3 months now. It's my going on my fourth month, and it's been fantastic."
That's why I had to ask, because
Yeah.
you're in the process of moving.
Right. So he says, you know what the number one injuries for pilots are?
Falling off a ladder.
Falling off a ladder.
Yeah,
So
that set
if you're a pilot at a legacy or a regional airline and you're like, I'm going to go hang at the Christmas lights. I'm going to go clean at the windows on the second floor. Let me get to my 13-foot ladder and then get up here because hey, I'm Mario. Hey. No, you're not. Hire someone.
Well, okay.
Go pick up one trip and you pay for it.
You've been to my parents' house. I don't know
Yeah.
if you got to see the outside with the back patio and the patio cover and everything that was there.
Sure.
The way that my parents have it set up now is the dream and the idea that we wanted to do back in 2003 2004 area. Have a built-in barbecue, have that kind of island counter area, right? All that stuff that's there now. Reason why it got put on pause is because as my dad and I are putting up the patio, the lattice and the patio cover of what's there, my dad built all that, did it all himself.
Nice.
Decided that falling off a ladder and shattering his wrist was, more important than finishing the patio cover.
Ah, man.
So,
It's hard because if you're a doer,
which
you don't want to hire somebody to do it, and then you look and then you go, "Oh, I could have done a better job myself for a quarter of the cost." But you know, just because you can doesn't mean you should. You make good once you make good money, get to the end of your career or the tail end of your career, you're making decent money, you got some days off. Just hire somebody to do it. Sit there and critique and complain because that's what we do best.
and I obviously now like they he can do that and critique and complain and do all that, but he was still in that younger phase in his life where he's like, no, I can do this. It's not that hard. It's simple woodworking and all that stuff, and
hmm
it was fine. The problem with him was, when we did this, I was his support staff, and so the beam that we were running when he shattered his wrist, he had it needed to be set into the 4x4 like perfectly. So like I'm sitting here, I'm 16 years old. I'm in probably the best shape of my life because I'm swimming and playing water polo, but I'm holding a 2x8 that's 10-12 foot long.
Oh yeah, over your head.
Like this, while
Yep.
he's up on the ladder going, all right, wait, no, we just got to adjust. No, okay, wait, hold it, wait, hey, okay, hold, okay, hold it right there. 10 minutes later, I'm.
Yeah. Yep.
So he's getting mad at me and he's like, you need to hold this thing straight. You need to hold it. Like, fine, F it. I'll do it myself. So he gets on the ladder. He's got it where it needs, and he gets on the ladder, and the ladder's kind of half on the concrete, half in the grass.
Oh shit.
And it's an old rickety like 70s style wood ladder. And I don't know if you know much about physics and leverage, but when you go to push and you use your whole body to push the drill, it goes down, which went out, which caused the ladder to go down and him to go like this and shatter his wrist.
Oh my god.
And then to add insult to the injury, the board came and knocked him in the head and gave him 4 stitches over his eye.
Jesus.
Yeah. So he was out of work and he needed surgery, and so yeah, there's certain jobs that you need to hire out on.
Yeah, because pilots they're mission oriented, right? Pilots are doers.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you don't have the mechanical aptitude, most pilots are pretty technical. So most pilots will, want to get the job done. And so the idea of, well, I could do it myself usually trumps the idea of, well, what's the risk analysis on this?
You're not wrong. There's certain things in the house that I'm like, dude, nah, let's get somebody for that.
But on with the show, shall we? Now that we're all caught up, and thank you for the riveting conversation, Alex, about staying off ladders.
Oh,
But we wanted to talk about some things that have been happening here out on the flight line, and thought, well, maybe our listeners could benefit from us giving it a little bit of a discussion. And we wanted to talk about something called ATC Zero. Now, I went through flight school, uh, was a flight instructor, an assistant chief. Then I got a job with a regional airline, and went through training, extensive training, back when we didn't have tablets and fancy things like smartphones. We everything was in the books, PowerPoint presentation, and a lot of reading, a lot of note cards, a lot of flashcards, a lot of study groups. And I got on the flight line, and I think I was flying about 6 or 7 years before I heard for the first time ATC Zero. And I was like, What? Um, so recently, again, back in April, we heard about an ATC Zero event happening in Newark. From Simply Flying magazine, or simplyflying.com, I pulled up an article that talks a little bit about the Newark ATC Zero event. And then maybe we'll talk about some of our personal experiences, and see if that actually helps out there. So this article is entitled ATC Staffing Issues Reportedly Caused Nearly 4-Hour Delays at Newark Liberty Airport. This was published originally on April 29th, 2025, from Garvo Joshi. Newark Liberty International Airport suffered significant operational disruptions on Monday due to a series of issues with air traffic management, including staffing issues. The airport serves the greater New York area and is a hub for United Airlines, which had dozens of flights canceled. Newark often makes the news about operational challenges stemming from air traffic control. Last year, the Federal Aviation Administration relocated the control of Newark airspace to Philadelphia due to staffing issues. On April 28th, many flights were delayed or diverted at Newark Liberty International Airport. It had been reported that several aircrafts were stuck in the surrounding airspace, circling in holding patterns, and many on the ground couldn't take off on time. This included both domestic and international flights. Some arriving flights were delayed as much as 3 hours and 36 minutes, while departures were delayed around 30 minutes. It all started with an issue with the telecommunications and radar equipment at the Philadelphia Terminal Radar Approach Control, which handles aircraft movement in and out of Newark Airport. Once that was resolved, staffing issues in Philadelphia added to the situation. With Newark being a hub for United Airlines, the carrier was significantly impacted and even updated the status on social media regarding flight rescheduling for passengers. Last year, the Federal Aviation Administration decided to transfer oversight of traffic at Newark Liberty International Airport to the TRACON, or Terminal Radar Approach Control facility at Philadelphia International Airport. This also required 24 ATC personnel to relocate from their Long Island, New York facility to Philadelphia. There was also an adjustment period and relocation of the ATC workers, causing some delays in air traffic in the area. More than 800 flights were delayed between late July and early August of last year. During this time period, the FAA had slowed the arrivals into Newark in order to allow the controllers to settle into their new location, from which they would be providing services. Still, the issue, it seems, is not fully resolved, as delays, such as the one on April 28th, still happen from time to time. The article goes on about staffing issues and, really some of the root causes here of an ATC Zero event. Now, this is not a typical ATC Zero event. This is more of a, hey, I got staffing issues, and, we have a communications issue. That's the ATC Zero event. The fact that they couldn't communicate with airplanes for a period of time is not only dangerous to everyone involved, but what do you do? So you're coming in to land, you're on an arrival, and all of a sudden it goes quiet on the radio, and the hairs in the back of your head kind of go up, and you're like, radio check, wind check, anybody? Check.
Everybody else is starting to do the same thing too.
Right. And now ATC is not responding. So what's the first thing that we do is we go on the number 2 radio and we'll go on guard. Now, if we're the only ones that they can't hear, that's one thing. But if you don't hear ATC, nobody's hearing ATC, you go on guard and you announce on guard, hey, trying to contact whatever, Newark approach control. And if you don't hear anything and then no one's communicating with you, it's possible that you're at an ATC Zero event, meaning there's 0 ATC on the frequencies. So what do you do? Well, if you look at FARs, there actually is an order, Juliet Oscar 1900.47F. It was effective March 31st of 2020. Air traffic control operational contingency plans. So if you're a student pilot, flight instructor, you might want to just spend a lesson with your students. Or if you're heading on to an airline, you might want to take a look at what these contingency plans are. Now, it's a very short, I think 28 pages long on this order, and it kind of talks about what's expected of you, how you may find out of ATC Zero. I'm not going to sit here and read the whole FARs to you, but
Please don't.
it kind of it talks about it.
I'm a sucker for a good bedtime story, but that'll put me right to sleep.
Wikipedia is a good way to sum it up, and so I'll read a little blurb from there to kind of give you an overall idea of what they're talking about here. ATC Zero, or Air Traffic Control Zero, is an official term used by the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration. That means the FAA is unable to safely provide the published air traffic control services within the airspace managed by a specific facility. The term is always used in conjunction with a facility reference. FAA ATC facilities include Air Route Traffic Control Centers, or ARTCC, or Air Inc. is a lot of times what we call it. Terminal Radar Control Facility, or TRACONs, Air Traffic Control Towers, or ATCTs, Flight Service Stations, or FSSs, or the Air Traffic Control System Command Center, or ATC-SCC. No. Terminal Radar Control Facilities, TRACON, and yeah, we mentioned those. The term is defined in FAA order, oh, look at that, JO 1900.47, Air Traffic Control Operational Contingency Plans. It is one of 3 designators used by the FAA, ATC Alert, ATC Limited, and ATC Zero, to describe degraded operations and invoke operational contingency plans. ATC Zero is declared in response to an event when it is determined the controlling facility or significant portion thereof is unable to safely provide the published air traffic services or provide traffic flow management in case of the ATC-SCC, ATC generally referred to the specific communication, navigation, or surveillance capabilities. I'm glad this is the watered down version.
Yeah.
Any or all of the published services could be impacted by a neutral or deliberate act that results in short or long-term ATC service degradation. Examples of events might result in the degraded operations include technical system failures, errant construction, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, wildfires, earthquakes, pandemic, terrorism, or war. The term was used in the USA Today article quoting an official immediately after 9/11 terrorist attacks supposedly referred to the blanket ban on aviation, although the term is not as all-embracing as that. Generally, I've seen this once in my career on a general term, and it was in Chicago back in I want to say 2015 maybe. I'm guessing, but one of the air traffic controllers in the Chicago Center got upset, took a fire axe, and severed the main lines of communication for the facility. Now, my personal situation was I was flying a trip. It was my go-home leg. I landed in Chicago, and there was a crew coordinator waiting for me at the jet bridge and said, "I'm sorry, you're being junior manned. You have another turn to do." Which, under IROP situation, which it was, they can do that. So they're like, "It's just a quick turn. Where am I going? Indianapolis and back." Oh,
Yeah,
I guess I could do that. You know, Chicago to Indy and back, and then go home about 3 hours behind when I was supposed to go home. Still getting home that day. I could do that. So I land in Indianapolis. We park at the gate. We deplane. It's a 20-minute turn, 25-minute turn. And the gate agent comes down and goes, "We have ATC Zero in Chicago." And I went, "Say what?
What's that mean?
Huh?" Like, "ATC Zero, I need you to ride the brakes. We got to pull this airplane. We got diversions coming in. We need the ramps. You guys are, canceled indefinitely. Ground stop." Like, wait, what? So we ride the brakes. We push the airplane out into the ramp area. I jump in the back of a pickup truck. They take me back to the terminal, and I'm trying to call crew scheduling to be like, "What's happening?" 2 hours later, I'm still on hold, and now I'm timing out. So I'm like, okay, now I'm learning what ATC Zero is and what happened. And the only airplanes that were getting out were the ones that could avoid the Chicago Center TRACON. And what they were doing was tower to tower en route until they got out of the Chicago TRACON, got on with Cleveland Center. And then once they were with Cleveland Center, they could then climb up above 10,000 feet. And the flight plans were being planned accordingly. So dispatchers, the aircraft coordinators, crew schedulers, crew coordinators, everybody was working triple time, like, to get stuff hopefully back on track. Well, I was one of those crew members that kind of got forgotten. My phone rang while I was on hold, forever hold. My phone rang and it was a crew scheduler, or at least an assistant to the crew scheduler, going, "Can you accept an extension?" I'm like, "What does it matter if I accept an extension? Either get me a hotel and deadhead me out tomorrow or whenever it's fixed, or release me and I can go find a flight to get me back to LA." And they're like, "No, I'm not your crew scheduler. I just need to know if you're willing to extend." I'm like, This ATC Zero is going to be indefinite. Like, what? Just give me a hotel. I'm already timing out. No, I'm not going to extend. Give me a hotel. She goes, "Okay, somebody will call you soon." Click. 2 hours later, I'm still at the airport with my crew. I look at my crew and they're all on reserve, and I'm like, "You know what? I'm off tomorrow. There's nothing they could do with me. And what are they gonna do? Deadhead me back to the base? I don't even want to go to base. I want to go to LA. There's an MD-80 right there. It's going to LA, and they're gonna, you know, basically scud run until they get to Cleveland Center, and then they're gonna get to LA." So I go talk to the captain. I'm like, "Hey, what do you think I should do? I mean, trying to catch a ride, but I don't know if I should just leave." And he's like, "Oh, they're not. This thing's gonna last days. They probably lost you. You're probably, if you want to get stuck in a hotel for a few days, stay, but not. You're more than welcome on our jump seat." Like, have my phone on until we close the door. Take off. Land in Los Angeles. Get off the airplane. Turn my phone on. Scheduling calling. Yes, you have a charter flight in the morning. You're gonna fly a whatever it is, 9300 flight, whatever, out of Indianapolis. And I call crew scheduling back and I go, "Do you know where I am? Like, why are you calling me? You should be at the hotel at rest." I'm like, "You never gave me a hotel. I should be sleeping underneath a chair at the airport. I called and asked for reasonable accommodations. I timed out. It was illegal for you to even call me, let alone schedule anything for me. And you basically abandoned me at the airport, and I timed out. So I found accommodations on my own, which was a flight home." She was like, "Well, you have a missed assignment. Contact your chief pilot."
Okay.
That was my one and only chief missed assignment. Um, Turns out there's an arbitration that I didn't know about, that if you're at an outstation, you cannot abandon an aircraft even into your days off. Turns out that if you're at an outstation, you have to hear the words on the voice recorder for the phone call from crew scheduling, "You are released." If they don't give that to you, it is it is expected that you will stay with the aircraft to relocate the aircraft. And I didn't know that.
Hmm.
So my one and only missed assignment was from an ATC Zero event that turned into just a giant cluster.
Yeah, I would have done the same thing you did too. Like,
Yeah.
you guys tried and you guys didn't get me what I needed. Okay, cool. I'm gonna find my own way and I'm going home.
Yeah. And inevitably, when I contacted my union rep and told him what the crew scheduler told me last night when I got home, my union rep said, "Well, unfortunately, she's not wrong, but considering the circumstances, I don't think this will be a punishable thing. You're not going to get like a letter in your file or anything. And he goes, and if you do, call us back and we'll, represent you. And so the next day I called my chief pilot, who I knew personally, and I was talking to him for a while, explaining what happened. And he's like, Tony, he goes, I'm not going to file anything in because normally we're supposed to put it in your personnel file that you have a missed assignment, explaining the situation. He goes, I'm not even going to do that. He goes, I'm just going to consider this a coaching counseling. He goes, because I totally get it that you just didn't know that you can't leave an airplane. If you were in base and this happened, he goes, we wouldn't be talking right now. But you did it at an outstation, so then they had to fly in another pilot to pick up that airplane and relocate it and all this stuff. So he goes, so it was kind of like a mea culpa, no harm, no foul situation. But ATC Zero can be a pretty major thing when you consider if you're on an arrival or an approach and all of a sudden now you're not talking to anybody, what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to cross that fix exactly at the time that your flight plan had you filed to cross that fix at? And what if you're 20 minutes ahead of schedule? Are you really supposed to hold at the outer marker until your time? Because the rules are whatever time you filed is the time you should be crossing those fixes. And does the international rules differ from the domestic rules? I mean, what are you supposed to do? What do you squawk? Do you squawk anything?
Yeah.
So these are all questions that maybe if you're bored one day or you can't sleep, you just pick up an FAA regulation online and you take a look at JO or Juliet Oscar 1900.47 Foxtrot order, and give that a good look. Now, Alex, you had an ATC Zero event you wanted to talk about, like an article you found. What was that about?
So it happened shortly after the Reagan incident in early this year, right? The PSA crash with the Black Hawk helicopter, which is horrible. But once they had that happen, the article, it's simplyflying.com. I sent it to Tony. Link will be in the show notes for it as well. But the basically what happened is they brought in a new management team after all this happened to get into safety and all that stuff, especially after the helicopter crash and everything that happened in DC. And what ended up happening was two controllers got into fisticuffs up in the control tower, and it caused the control tower to shut down for a few hours. Because basically the article, I'll sum up the article in a couple sentences, is basically the new management team came in and they didn't agree, the controllers didn't agree with the new management team, and people just got uppity and got into fights and caused the control tower to be shut down and 3 people to be suspended.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's not. Trust me when I say it's not just an ATC Zero event where something happens, because that happened. The one that I had happen to me was I was in Lexington and the NOTAM system shut down U.S. wide, where all planes were grounded when that happened. I mean, so it doesn't just have to be controllers. It can be, something as simple as like, hey, we can't access the NOTAMs, and nobody could access them. So they grounded all flights. Ended up working out in my favor. I stayed in Lexington and got to go do a distillery tour that I wouldn't have gotten to do. And
nice.
So
I remember talking about that NOTAM failure when it happened. We talked about it on the show back then. And they're like, well, really? I mean, do anybody even read the NOTAMs? I mean, yes, we're supposed to look at the NOTAMs. The NOTAMs for the airport, closed taxiways, closed runways, closed equipment. Okay, great. But do we absolutely need them? Well, the lawyers get involved and go, well, don't let them take off, because if something happens and the pilots say, well, there were no NOTAMs, but the runway was shut down and I landed on the shut down runway because I didn't know, because there were no NOTAMs. So it's more of a liability issue than anything else. So they just said, nope, cancel all the flights. Let's get this NOTAM thing. And it was a software, I think, update issue, right?
and it didn't take, and like it didn't push out properly, and which didn't push out to the centers properly, which didn't push out to the companies properly. So everybody was just like, the fuck, what do we do?
Right. Right. So, good conversation. Thank you so much for reviewing that. Again, like Alex said, I'll put a link in the show notes for these two articles. And I highly recommend that you take a look at the history of air traffic control and Ronald Reagan. The fact that a couple controllers got into fisticuffs in the tower is not the first time. DCA controllers have during the Reagan era had quite a bit where they were going to go on strike, and the president said, "Nope, go back to work."
Yeah.
And
Don't you dare call it DCA.
well, don't you can
Or don't you dare call it Reagan.
Reagan. And I know that there was a story sometime in the history of this podcast where I talked about the first time I ever went to DCA as an FO, a newly minted FO, and I read the Jefferson chart.
Reagan Tower.
Reagan Tower, this is like Sandpiper 1 2 3 4 5, and Reagan Tower, huh?
Yeah.
And my captain goes, "He's new." She goes, "I figured. Well, I guess I can let you land. Clear to land, runway 19."
Yeah.
Reagan Tower. Yeah, don't do that
Don't.
unless you want to have words. If you want to have words, then forget about it.
Yeah, don't. That's one thing. Like, and I know they ended up changing it in Atlanta. I actually just flew through Atlanta for the first time the other day. But Taxiway Dixie is no longer Taxiway Dixie. They had to change it to Delta because people were confused on what Dixie.
Now, you just brought back a flood of thoughts and words in my mind, and I just like to share with everyone here. Every airport names their taxiways a little differently. There's no real rhyme and reason other than using a phonetic taxiway title. Some airports, they run out of taxiway identifiers, so they start calling taxiways like Mike 1, Mike 2, Mike 4. Other airports name their taxiways like Alpha Bravo, Alpha Charlie, Alpha Delta, Delta Charlie, Delta Alpha. And I really don't like that because it opens up a huge can of worms for mistakes, especially when controllers are speaking really quickly. They're saying, all right, exit the runway at Delta, use Delta Papa to Papa Alpha to Delta 6. Wait, okay, Delta to Papa to Alpha. No, not Papa to Alpha, Delta Papa Alpha. And it's like, okay. So, Delta student pilot, progressive, please. So I like the third option. I like the third option, which is take Bravo to Echo Echo to Foxtrot Foxtrot to Golf to Bravo Bravo. So I like the double identifier, but like the same letter. So there's Bravo and then there's Bravo Bravo.
But the problem is if you're getting like, and I'll use Chicago or even DFW for that matter, if you're getting, a bunch of planes, that you need to get taxi clearances to, it's kind of difficult to, Sandpiper 1 2 3 4, Alpha Bravo Bravo Charlie, take the Tango Bridge over. Like, you know what I mean? Like, did he just say Alpha Bravo Bravo, or did he say Alpha Bravo to Bravo Charlie to?
Well, then I'm okay with saying Alpha 1 to Bravo 3 to Charlie 7. I mean, but the whole Alpha Bravo, or is that Alpha 2 Bravo, or is that Alpha Bravo? Like just yesterday, we were taxiing out, and the instructions, I think, were like Juliet, Mike, something, something, something. And right next to the intersection of Juliet, Mike, there's an intersection called Mike Juliet.
Oh, good, because that's not confusing.
Because 10 out of 8 pilots are dyslexic. I was like, wait a minute. And I'm like taxiing the airplane. I'm looking at my moving map airport diagram, and I'm not really finding Juliet Mike. I'm finding Mike Juliet.
Yep.
And he goes, no. And my FO goes, no, it's Juliet to Mike. I'm like, oh shit. Okay. Now I get it. I was looking at Mike Juliet, and he's like, what?
Well, so here you go. Here's some interesting tidbit trivia facts about DFW, one of the airports that Tony and I operate out of very consistently. Their taxiways, when they're double letters, make sense. Do you know why?
Yes. Why?
Because on the 18 side or the west side of the airport, anything that's a double letter is generally going to be a W Juliet, W Golf, W Hotel. It's the west side of the airport.
Ah,
And then the east side is all Echo Golf, Echo Romeo.
dang, you done learned me something, son. That's pretty tight.
Once you get that and you grasp and you're like, oh, I get it. It's the east side. So I'm looking for East Romeo versus East or West Romeo.
Okay. I like it.
And
I
the other tidbit trivia fact about Dallas is what's the most northern bridge at Dallas?
Oh, that would be Yankee,
That
sir.
would be the Yankee Bridge because the Yankees are to the north.
Yeah, keep them Yankees to the north. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I always mention that when we're taxing out with a new hire, and they usually go, "That's not real, is it?"
Yes, it is. It's 100% real.
You do realize you're in Texas?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell you what.
So, but yeah, no, once you realize that, like, if you're going like whiskey kilo, doing
Yeah.
something.
So the Western Kilo is Whiskey
Western
Kilo.
Kilo, yeah.
and Eastern Kilo is Echo Kilo.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But see, where did you done learn that? I mean, did they explain that to you, or did you just figure it out?
Figured it out.
Okay, you're real smart, like.
Well, unlike you, that's my home base, so I operate out of there
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
And it just, I started picking up on it. I'm like, so if you look at like the 1.8s and the 1.7, the takeoff runways, 1.8 left, and here, let's do this.
Oh, pulling up the JEP charts.
Well, it's the NOS chart, but still it works. So, I've got, I don't know what you can see on my screen. Can you see my whole desktop?
No, it just asked me if to share, and I said yes, but I just see you.
Okay. Oh, boo!
You have to update.
Yeah, no, I gotta. It said open and do it later. Like it's got to restart Zoom, and I'm like, nah, not in the middle of the podcast. Anyways, so if you pull up the DFW chart and you look at the 1.8 left and 1.7 right area, they are both the same, right? You've got Fox Golf and Hotel.
Okay.
But those Fox Golf and Hotels have a W and a W and an E in front of them. They're the same taxiways, right?
Yes. Right.
But one's just the west side and one's the east side.
Right.
And you go
Echo
down
Fox,
the entire taxiways. Like
Yep.
there's Whiskey Juliet, Echo Juliet, Whiskey Kilo, Echo Kilo,
Yep. Got it.
Whiskey Mike, Echo Mike. They're going to build the Echo Romeo route, right? Which this one doesn't have it on. This is an old chart, but they're going to build the Echo Sierra route, which is the Echo Southern route, right?
Oh, okay.
And they're going to build the Western Sierra route around the runways.
Yeah. So what Alex is referring to is if you're not familiar with the Dallas Fort Worth International Airport, first I recommend you check out the Aviator Tony and the Squawk Ident YouTube page. The YouTube page, we did do a documentary on the history of DFW where we show probably over 100 photos from historical photos of the development of Dallas Fort Worth. I was just having this conversation with my FO last night. How Dallas has its own emergency room.
Yep.
Have you ever heard of an airport? It's basically its own city.
Yep.
It has its own postal zip code. It has its own fire department, police department, and it has its own emergency room, it's a working hospital. And it's just Dallas is an amazing place. And it's all because it's so spread out. And originally, I believe they were supposed to do 16 terminals originally in the plans. And they ended up with at first 2 and then 4. And then now
we're going to be up to 10 with the Fox one.
Well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
6.
Yep. Six with the Fox. Yeah. So, and there's room to grow. But anyway, the connector is, if you look at the east, if you look at a NOS chart or a JEP chart or what have you, and you look at the airport diagram, or you can go to airnav.com, I believe, and you can pull up the NOS charts on airnav.com. You don't have to pay anything for it. And you look at the connectors, like what are the connectors? Well, sometimes it's so busy when they're departing on the inners and landing on the outers that they don't want to cross aircraft on an active runway. So they built these connectors both on the north and south side of the runways where you can taxi around and not have an impedance on air traffic flow. So if you look at the south side of runway 17 center and 17 right, there's a Papa to Echo Sierra, which I've now learned is the East Sierra route, and the eastern side of Sierra, and then Juliet Sierra, and then you can go basically around the departing runway without having to cross an active runway. And they want to do the same thing on the west side, on the 18 right and 18 left runway complex. And so when they do that, what Alex is saying is they're going to name those Whiskey Sierra and so on and so forth, so that it's consistent. There's logic and reasoning. Charlotte, another airport that has recently built a connector around their runways. So there's a connector there. Now, the funny thing is, I've used that connector probably a dozen times already after landing. And there's a sign, big yellow sign with black letters that says maximum wingspan 118 feet. So the first time I used that connector, it had been opened for like 3 days. This concrete's brand new, paint's brand new, beautiful. Well, this connector has this sign because once you turn perpendicular to the runways, you're actually taxiing in between the approach light system.
Yep.
And those approach light system, it's the poles, and the approach lights are on the top of these big orange poles. Well, those poles are well more than 118 feet apart. However, they've determined that safety margins, the asphalt width with the pavement and the concrete and the asphalt, maximum wingspan of 118 feet. I look over at my FO as I'm making this turn as close to center line as possible, going, wow, those poles are pretty close. Hey, we're in a 321 Neo with winglets and wing tips or whatever they call them. What's our wingspan again? He almost, his eyes got this big. He was like, oh shit, where can I find that real quick? And I'm like, is it 116 feet? 116 and a half? I mean, what model are we wearing? Do we have sharklets? Do we have wingtips? I mean, the wing is the same for 319 and 321, but how many feet difference is it? Tip to tip? So you couldn't find it in the 4 seconds it took, So I'm like, we'll be fine, dude. We'll be fine. So we got to the gate, and now I can't find it. He can't find it. Well, we found it eventually. It was not in the AOM, or Aircraft Operating Manual. It was not in the FOM. Obviously, that's Operations Manual. It was in the AOM 2, which is called the ASM, Aircraft Systems Manual. So if you're looking for the dimensions of your aircraft, you have to look at the Aircraft Systems Manual.
That makes no sense. It should be in the limitations, which is for us in Volume 1.
You would think that it would be readily available, but it's one of those things where they go, you read it once, you're good.
In case you're wondering, a 321 Neo with winglets, also known as sharklets, has a wingspan of 117 feet 5 inches.
So what you're saying is centerline.
Hey, you know what? I will say I do appreciate Charlotte, what they did, the orange and blue lines to get in and around, because I'm a pilot and I'm dumb at most of the times, and they say follow the blue line. Hey, look, that's blue. I'll follow that all the way to my gate.
Right. And unfortunately, though, there are areas where the blue line and the orange line do not connect or intersect.
Yep.
And they say, all right, follow, transition blue line, transition to orange line, go behind this aircraft and give way to that aircraft and taxi to this spot, but go around the parking pad and then contact ground on the other side. And then now you got that northwestern ramp area where it's like, well, where do you contact ramp? There's still big holes in the ground that look like swimming pools. Like, where am I? So yeah, avoid Charlotte. Just don't do it.
Also for us, which we're not limited on a lot of things that we can do with our wingspan and stuff like that. But you get up to those echo gates that are up in the northeast area of the airport.
It's tight.
We can't take the orange and blue lines. We get to limited at that point. We get to turn into a big boy and take the center line.
Oh, nice.
But they park us at the front of that area, so we don't have to go so super far back.
Here's a topic, Alex, that I think every pilot never wants to hear. Like, what do you think? What do you think is like some of the worst things a pilot ever wants to hear?
Uh, you can't fly anymore because you're medically unfit.
Yeah.
And then the other big one is, hey, Legacy 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a phone number for you to copy if I when ready.
Yes, that's a bad one. I mean, the only thing that probably tops that is brace for impact. Brace, brace, brace. I mean, if
We would be saying that. Not
well, unless you're
commuting.
deadheading or commuting. I mean, you're sitting in the back, fat, dumb, and happy, watching Pitch Perfect 7 for the fifth time or whatever.
Just because I watch those movies on my deadheads does not mean you need to bring them up.
Oh, I watch them at full blast volume with my headphones on. And
you're one of those people that watches them at full blast volume without your headphones on.
No, that's faux pas. That's faux pas. No, but no, seriously. Yeah, advise when ready. Copy phone number for possible pilot deviation. Now, there's one thing that I have repeatedly said on this program is that we are here to learn from each other. We absolutely, when I stated all those years ago, we stand on the shoulders of all those aviators that came before us, and now that you've made it, it's your turn, right? To help and lift up the aviators around you. It's time to mentor. It's time to share your knowledge. What makes a pilot's skin crawl faster than anything else usually is one, admitting that they made a mistake, and two, having air traffic control say, advise and ready to copy phone number. And the fact the matter is, I can't tell you how many times I've done it myself. I'll sit there on the radio and I hear traffic control tell another pilot, advise and ready to copy phone number for possible pilot deviation. And I go, ooh.
Yeah. Do you know what that is called? Here's a tidbit trivia history for you.
What's that?
It's called the Brasher Warning.
The Brasher Warning. Okay.
I'll send you the article. Flying Mag has it. But it's called Brasher, the BRASHER, Brasher Warning, when you get that, because apparently there was a captain, Jack Brasher, who worked for Republic back in the 80s, allegedly deviated from assigned altitude between a flight between Chicago and Minneapolis. According to the FAA, the deviation was approximately 700 feet. The crew was not informed of the deviation during the flight or after landing. Several months later, Brasher received a notification that the FAA was investigating the alleged incident. Given that several months and several hundred flight hours had passed, neither Brasher nor the first officer had recollection of the event. So the FAA determined that had the controller brought it to their attention immediately, the crew would have remembered the event and circumstances surrounding it. Thus, the procedure for immediately notifying the phrase of possible pilot deviation was developed. I'm going to right now.
I think we got a show title. So yours truly, for not the first time, because I've received them before, but for the first time in a really long time, I received one. And I wanted to talk about the event. Yeah, right. I wanted to talk about the event because I do this podcast to talk about the journey of today's aviator, what they can expect out in the marketplace, and to share my experiences, and hopefully it'll help those listeners out there that will remember this, put it in the back of their leadership toolbox, to coin a phrase from a previous guest, and hopefully be able to prevent them from getting a Brasher warning. So here's the picture. So I was awarded this trip on short call when the trip from last week, and the first day was not bad. It was one leg, Phoenix to San Francisco, medium-sized layover, stayed downtown, not a big deal. Next day was a 2-legger, and it was San Francisco to Charlotte, swap airplanes, and then Charlotte to DFW. Again, not a big deal. Landed at DFW at ODark 19, so 12:19 in the morning. Walked over to the airport hotel and had a 12-hour and 36-minute layover. Now, 10 hours minimum layover time, which means 10 hours block to block, 8 hours of sleep opportunity, which the FAA has determined that it's just 8 hours behind the door of the hotel unofficially.
Which is bullshit because if you're not getting 8 hours of sleep,
No, you get 4, 5. Because I
if
don't know anybody that can just flip it off when they're flying airplanes for a living and they get to the hotel. They don't just flip it off. They have to shower, get cleaned up, get their
Val,
stuff ready, plug in all their tablets.
Val can probably test this. Rachel tests it too. 8 hours behind the door, like it takes you an hour bare minimum to wind down,
Yep.
especially after coming in, bare minimum. So there's 7 hours. Then you got to get up another, hour or two, depending on how long it takes you to get ready. So realistically, 4 or 5 hours of sleep behind the
Yeah.
closed door on a
And you haven't
Midwest.
even mentioned gym time, working out time, exercise, food time, nutrients time,
Nope,
coffee time, nothing. I
time for
mean,
that.
yeah. So personally, I think anything under 14 hours is short for me. So it was, 12-hour layover, not a big deal. Um, as I'm walking from the airport to the D gates in Dallas,
Okay.
I get a notification. Ding! Your tail number has changed. See flight release 1 point or 2.0 or whatever, or 1.0, whatever it was. So my flight release had been updated. My tail number had changed. Now, in my experience doing this for 20 plus years, when a tail number changes at the last second like that, it's either you have a mechanical that wasn't fixed,
Yep.
that maintenance needs more time on, or there's an airplane that a crew denied for whatever reason, and they said, no, I refuse this aircraft. Maintenance has to fix it. So they took the next available airplane, which is your airplane. And usually what they do is they'll put you in their airplane because they refused it. And they
Hmm.
figure you have maybe a little bit more time. That gives maintenance a little bit more time to fix it. That's exactly what happened. They got to the gate. There's 4 flight attendants there. And I was like, are you guys taking this airplane to Phoenix? And they're like, no, we were the crew. My captain refused the aircraft because the APU is MEL'd. Mind you, it was 100 in Dallas that day and 116 at Phoenix Sky Harbor with a MEL'd APU, which the auxiliary power unit on the aircraft, for those that maybe don't get it, just real quick brief on that, is the generator. It's a turbine engine. It's a generator that it produces both electrical power for the aircraft on the ground,
Hmm.
and it produces pneumatic air that powers the air conditioning and heating unit or the packs. So, with no APU on the ground, you're at the mercy of having available ground power and having available preconditioned air hooked up to the airplane. Now, doesn't matter where you're at. Most preconditioned air units that are connected to the jet bridge just cannot keep up with hot and humid. So, I get on the aircraft and catering was there and cabin cleaning was there. They're all like turning this airplane around because now they have to take all the catering off the airplane that was there and replace it with the catering for your aircraft and vice versa. Well, the cabin temperature was 95 degrees. The preconditioned air that they had hooked up was not working. So it was just blowing outside air into the cabin and cockpit of the aircraft. At 95 degrees, you can imagine hot, humid, 95 degrees, it was hard to breathe.
Yeah. Well, I would
So
use it too.
So I immediately walked right back off the airplane. Told the flight attendants, "You don't have to board if you don't want to because it's hot. I don't have an APU to start to cool down the aircraft. We need to get a high pressure hover cart over here."
Hmm.
Now, a high pressure hover cart is required to start the engines when you don't have an APU. The APU provides electrical and pneumatic air, not just for the packs, but also to start an engine. Usually, as soon as you push off the gate and clear the jet bridge, you get clearance to start an engine. When you start the engine, the pneumatic air from the APU is diverted away from the passenger air conditioning and heating system and directly to the air turbine starter. Starts up the engine. Okay. That's why when you push off a gate and the captain and first officer start an engine, every passenger reaches their hands up on a hot day and God, there's no air coming out of here. And they turn the gas prevents. Well, folks, you can turn that to your blue in the face. Air is not coming out of those other than small fan that just circulates the air, because the air is prioritized to the engine start. When you don't have a functioning auxiliary power unit or APU, you have to rely on an external air start cart, or what they call a hover cart. Now, the external air start cart, usually they start at one engine at the gate. And on an Airbus A321, the connection for that air start cart is right in front of the number 2 engine. Like literally, the air start cart is right there in front of the number 2 engine. So you can only start one engine, and it's always the number 1, the captain's side. So knowing that we were going to need an air start cart and the internal temperature of the cabin was above the maximum allowed for boarding, I called operations and I let the gate agent know, don't board the aircraft. I'm going to call operations, get a hover cart. We'll get the packs running. Now, the hover cart is high pressure air, so it is very efficient at cooling the aircraft down through the pack system. So it's not just external air conditioned air that's being pushed in, but you're actually using the aircraft's air conditioning unit. And so they said, okay, we'll get it. We'll get it. Well, they were continuing to load bags, and 40 minutes went by and still no air hover cart. Now the cabin temperature or the cockpit temperature was 98 degrees. And so we had all the windows open trying to get a cross breeze. I mean, it was uncomfortable. We're both very sweaty, and that's fatiguing.
Very.
It's absolutely fatiguing to be in that hot, humid environment. And you're trying to be present so that you can coordinate hooking up the aircraft and do all this stuff. But also you want to step off the airplane because it's uncomfortable. And the jet bridge isn't any better. So an hour after our scheduled departure time, we finally got a hover cart. And we finally got I got the packs running. And the gate agent came down with their infrared thermometer. They're scanning everything. They're like, yeah, no, you're still at 90 plus degrees. We got to wait until you're below 84 before we start boarding. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's fine by me. Don't make these people uncomfortable. Plus, once all the passengers come on board the aircraft, they start breathing. And all that hot breath just not. So we did everything we could to get out of there. We were delayed. Suffice to say, we were delayed significantly. So we left we left Dallas to go to Phoenix about an hour and 15 minutes behind schedule. Not too bad.
No.
We did our best to try to catch up, but inevitably we landed an hour and 10 minutes behind schedule. Now, preemptively, I knew that this is a 2-leg day, and we were flying basically a transcon from Phoenix to Philadelphia, and it's 116 degrees in Phoenix, Sky Harbor. And it's a transcon, so we're going to be heavy. It's hot. And we have an MEL'd APU, and we're supposed to keep the airplane. So before I left Dallas, I called the dispatcher and said, look, this is what's going on. The airplane's over 95 degrees in the cabin and cockpit. I asked for an air start hover cart so that we can get the packs going and cool the airplane down so we can board, because we're not doing that. They didn't get that for 45 minutes. I later found out that they can't load bags in the F1 or forward cargo compartment with the hover cart in the way. So they had to finish loading all the bags, then remove the belt loader, then bring over the hover cart. And that's why it took so long for them to hook up the hover cart to get packs going. On top of that, I knew we were keeping the airplane. So I called dispatch and I said, look, man, I'll tell you right now, I'll fly it to Phoenix because getting there, it's not that hot in Dallas and we can make do. But once we get to Phoenix, I will be refusing this aircraft because I will not take off in 116 degrees with no APU. And I'm probably going to need it anyway for the departure.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yep, no problem. I'm going to leave a message with the aircraft coordinator. By the time you land, we'll situate this whole situation. We'll take care of it. I understand you're going to refuse the aircraft. Thank you, Captain, for letting me know. Sure, no problem. So we take off, and sure enough, when we were about 40 minutes out, I sent the connections and found out, yes, we're indeed swapping aircraft. So we had to walk across 3 terminals to get to that aircraft, and it was supposed to be a 30-minute connection minimum because we're now late. So, and we're keeping the crew and everything. So we walk over to the new aircraft, and we're loading everything up. Meanwhile, I get on the airplane first. The flight attendants are right behind me, and guess what's right behind the last flight attendant?
The passengers.
The passengers. So I'm like, don't let them board until you do your safety checks, and I'm going to brief you because I always do a pre-departure briefing. Doesn't take more than 2 minutes, but I want to get it done. So I pull up the flight plan. I load the EFB. I put the departure. I put all the things en route. I load WSI for the weather. And I go out and I do the briefing. Meanwhile, my first officer is doing the walk around. And it's a NEO aircraft. So when we get back from the walk around, they're already boarding the aircraft. Everyone's in a hurry. Now I'm getting distractions. We don't have enough water. They didn't care. This, it's okay. Send a message. Do this. And my FO was taking care of the CPDLC, or the automated cockpit to ATC communications, the SATCOM stuff, right? CPDLC. And that's how we get our clearance. We don't call via voice on the radio and read it back or anything. And we don't use the traditional Unilink or uplink PDC where it prints out like an ATIS would print out on the printer. This is a CPDLC uplink, so it's digital. And then what you do as a pilot is you print it. Now, when he printed it, he noticed that there was a revised segment of some kind. On those aircraft, on the CPDLC unit, you can load the air traffic control flight plan into your secondary flight plan of your FMS, which is what my first officer did. And then he copied the secondary flight plan, which was the ATC revised segment, into the primary. So far, everything's standard SOP.
Tracking, it sounds good.
Everything sounds good. So because I was making a PA to the passengers, trying to catch up with everything, and he was doing all the thing, as soon as that was done and he was done, I said, all right, let's do a flight plan review. So as the person who didn't put it in, it's my job to read what's in the FMS or in the box. So I pull it up and I start reading. And I always start with the init page and I go, okay, legacy flight so-and-so from here to here with no alternate. And then I go to the flight plan page and I start reading from the top. All right, we're anticipating runway this on the 4P departure. And I go through the fixes and I read all the fixes, altitude and speed constraints. And then I get to the first fix on the flight plan. And then I go through all those flight plan fixes all the way to our destination. And then I read off the total distance. And the first officer or the pilot who is, monitoring the review verifies all the fixes. And then we compare the distances. And if the distances are within like 100 miles, you're like, oh yeah, everything's loaded right. We didn't put some strange fix in there that's like 1,000 miles away. Everything looked good. Again, more distractions. Are you ready to close? I'm like, no, I still have to run a checklist. Stand by, please. So we run the checklist, we get everything situated, buttoned up, and we reviewed the MEL. There was one MEL in the aircraft, which is ELT monitor in-op. And the procedure was a circuit breaker was pulled in the avionics bay, and you may get a ECAM message after engine start. Okay. So we monitored that. We did that. Now we're ready to go. We talked to ground control, getting ready to, everything's buttoned up. Okay, clear to close the door, push off the gate, and we're taxiing out. We get a pretty relatively quick taxi. There's nobody out there at that time. We were very lucky. Get number one of the runway. All right, clear this ECAM message that popped up. Are you ready to go? Yep, ready to go. All right. Tower says, clear for takeoff, runway 25 right. Clear for takeoff, 25 right. I look over at the FO and I say, your aircraft. He says, my aircraft. Set thrust. All right, here we go. We take off. And as soon as weight off wheels, and we briefed this. I'm like, hey, on this departure, there's a speed restriction, like 3 fixes in, that's 230 knots max. If you look at our weight at 201,000 pounds, our green dot speed or clean configuration speed is 251 knots.
Yeah, we need to be 251, not 200.
So, well, the option is you either get relief from ATC, which is not guaranteed, or we're going to leave the flaps 1 extended for longer than usual. So it's going to take a while for us to complete the after takeoff flow and checklist. So you brief it. Not a big deal. And we briefed it. We take off. And right about clean up acceleration altitude, we brought flaps to 1 from, and it's, mind you, this was a toga takeoff, APU on, max improved takeoff.
Yep.
And so we're, taking up a lot of runway here. We take off. It's
GTF,
hot.
get the power going.
Go. Right. So we're taking off. We use a lot of runway. We take off. We're airborne. It's not climbing very well. It's hot.
Yeah.
Right. So now we're at flaps 1. We're waiting to make the turn.
Yep.
And we get ding. Circuit breaker. ELT monitor. Circuit breaker tripped. And he says, my aircraft. I said, your aircraft. I said, okay, this is associated with the MEL as discussed. Clear ECAM. Yes, clear ECAM. All right, here's a status page. It says the ELT monitor is MEL. All right, and then off. All right, so clear status. All right, ECAM action is complete. Just then, the autopilot's already coupled. The airplane starts to turn on the 4P. And as the aircraft is turning, we already, went over to departure. And departure says, Legacy, are you on the 4P? And I look down on the FMS and I go, affirmative, we're on the 4P. And he goes, oh, you're supposed to be on the broke. And I went, what? And I looked over, my FO's eyes are like freaking spotlights, like, what? And we both grabbed the piece of paper and we're looking at it. And it's off the CPDLC, the flight plan for PDC does not look the same as a traditional Unilink PDC. So I'm looking at it and I'm like reading through all this and I'm like, oh crap, we're supposed to be on the broke. And he goes, oh man, I missed it. And I'm like, oh and he's like, he's really apologetic and he's like, fuck, and so I'm like, dude, fly the airplane. I got it. I'm like, hey, request radar vectors. You're right. We hand jammed this wrong. Request radar vectors. He's all right. No, it's okay. Fly this heading, climb to this altitude, boom. And I'm like, do you need me to load something in the box here? Or he's like, nope, don't worry about it. I'll get you headings. So we get headings. We're make the right turn instead of the left turn like we were supposed to. So now we got all this going on, and now like he's accelerating, and I'm like, oh well, those speeds don't count anymore. Let's clean up the aircraft. And he's like, oh okay, so flaps up after takeoff checklist, fine. So I do all this thing and I'm reading through everything. I'm doing everything. I'm like, just continue to fly. You're fine. And then like a couple minutes go by, and that's when we heard it.
Yep.
Legacy aircraft 123. Advise ready to copy phone number. Had my pen out already. I was like, ready to copy. And they're like, yeah, contact the Phoenix Tower at da-da-da-da-da when you land and for possible pilot deviations. Understood. And instead of me being on the other end going, ooh, I was on this end going, fuck.
Well, and I pulled up the departures just to see, the complete difference in them. And like, it's not even like, in Dallas where it's like kind of like where you could like, oh, okay, I could maybe take this or this. And we kind of go the same direction. They're polar opposite directions.
Right.
Like the broke is a complete left turn out to the south, where the 4P is a complete right turn out to the north. Like not even like you could fudge that and be like, oh yeah, hold on, let's fix it. Like,
and once you depart, once you're airborne, you can no longer load a departure. So like once you're airborne, you can change fixes, you can do that, but you cannot load a runway or departure. It's gone. That page is no longer accessible to you. So you would have to build it. You'd have to like look at it and start plugging
all the fixes,
right? Which we're technically not supposed to do.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason why you should have to do that. So the controller, I mean, it could have been so much worse. We could have had pilot deviation, near miss, somebody had to go around. We could have got an RA out of it. I mean, there's so many things that could have been way worse than it was. But we're very, very fortunate. It just goes to show you, it doesn't matter how much experience you have, doesn't matter how much you follow SOPs and stuff. I mean, it's the threat and error management model. And, most of the time you follow the rules, you follow the threat and error management model, and you trap these errors. Occasionally, no matter how much you try, we're humans, and the human factor has to be involved in this. And yes, we did not trap an error, neither one of us. And my first officer, this guy, former Air Force, Osprey driver, he was a Air Force flight safety officer. So like he was used to writing reports and analyzing flight safety and accidents and things like that. So it's not like this was some like fresh off the street, green under the collar guy. This guy knew what he was talking about. So we both felt bad. And I said, look, man, in the past, I would have not reacted this way. I would have been more like, oh, fuck, and like really been stressed out the whole flight and, maybe even missed some other things because I was too busy thinking about the past. But after 20 years of flying the line and having the roles that I've had and having the experiences that I've also shared, um, I was able to stay calm. And I said to him, like, look, bro, I know how you feel right now. And I'm like, don't worry about it. Let's fly this airplane across the country to Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
It's behind us. When we get on the ground, I guarantee you everything's going to be okay. I'm going to make the phone call from the cockpit. We won't even open the cockpit door. When we run the checklist, we're done. We're going to make the phone call. I'll put it on speakerphone. Let's see what they have to say. I said, there are scenarios that could play out with this deviation. It was our error. We will hone up to it. We won't try to blame anyone or mask it. I said, and you and I have learned from this, and hopefully, we'll get the best case scenario, which will be an ASAP report and maybe a coaching counseling. Right. Worst case scenario, they might determine that it was intentional deviation or intentional noncompliance. In which case, now we're going to Dallas and we're going to have to talk to the FAA and talk about why we're so shitty pilots. So I did my best to set the tone of the cockpit.
Yep.
Which was my favorite part of the fourth stripe, is you get to set the tone of the cockpit. And I think it was a relatively positive flight. There were times where we were kind of quiet. We were kind of reflecting on, what's next. I've definitely done worse. I mean, you're lying if you haven't. You definitely have done worse. And so I wasn't really too worried. But it's embarrassing. At the end of the day, you're your own worst critic. So for us, it worked out okay. Once we got to our destination, it was late, and I said, "Look, don't worry about it. We have 24 hours to fill this ASAP out. So I'm gonna type something up, and I'm gonna email it to you or text it to you. Then you just read it. We'll make changes. I mean, you probably know how to do this better than I. So let's take a look at it." And we talked about it, and he goes, "No, I like it. I like it." So um, that night I filled mine out before going to bed because it takes me an hour to unwind, right? And I submitted the ASAP, and they changed the format in the ASAP. The way it used to be a little bit more detailed. Now it's not as detailed. So I submitted my narrative, submitted the suggestions on why I think it happened and how it could be prevented from happening in the future. And I submitted it, no problem. And in the morning, he sent me a message saying, "Hey, I just got a call from our union asking about the ASAP because I haven't submitted mine yet. I'm still working on it." And he said, "Whatever you do, don't copy and paste your captain's ASAP. We see that a lot, and don't do that." So he texts me. He goes, "Yeah, so I'm going to rewrite this thing like in my own words." I'm like, "Well, that's fine. Just as long as we are not contradicting each other and we're being factual about what actually happened and why it happened and how like we see that in the future we can prevent this from happening." And so he did this long, ASAP, and I was like, "You've got a lot of writing there, man. You've been working on that for I think for hours. Like, are you okay?" He's like, "Yeah. I want to make sure I get the words right and stuff." I'm like, he goes, "I've done hundreds of these in the military, and I just want to make sure I get it right." I'm like, "Yeah, totally get it." So he submitted his, and then I finished my trip. I When I called the tower, by the way, I didn't mention that. They just said, "I just need your name and phone number, and in case anybody has any questions, they'll reach out to you." He goes, "Because I wasn't even here when that happened." So, and that's all. That's all that was. And so I had a little conversation with him. Didn't talk too much to the ATC controller. Um, then a couple days later, actually yesterday morning, I'm driving to the airport to start my next trip, and uh, get a phone call from our union ASAP chairman, and he said, "Hey, I just want to let you know that, the FAA, the company, and I, so there's three people on the ASAP committee. It's one person representing the company, one person representing the pilots union, and one person representing the FAA or the POI's office. Principal operator inspecting. Principal operator inspector. Operation inspector, whatever it is, POI." So he goes, "Yeah, the three of us sat down. We de-identified your information. We talked about the event, your narrative, your first officer's narrative. By the way, excellent way of just giving us the facts. He goes, you guys were task saturated. The CPDLC, we see this all the time. He goes, we work so hard at the company to make sure that the way the PDC comes out on the printer comes out in a specific way consistently. And when you have a revised segment, you see all those little asterisks around it so that it catches your eye. So even though you're just glancing at it because you guys are busy during the cockpit prep, he goes, you see it. But the CPDLC, the format is really hard to read.
Yeah.
And he goes, when we looked at this, we looked at the flight data, we listened to the radio communication. You guys didn't try to cover it up. You're like, yep, nope, bonehead, we did it. And he goes, that's exactly the way we want it to happen, because that shows that it was a pilot error. And you know what? He goes, it's happened to all of us at some point or another. We got something loaded incorrectly in the box and we're off on a heading, and ATC goes, where are you going? Right? He goes, in your situation, he goes, it's like the number one error that we're seeing right now in ASAP. It's CPDLC flight plans not being loaded correctly. He goes, that's why it is so critical to do a thorough flight plan review. He said, we can't stress that enough. He goes, if you guys would have stopped, pulled that piece of paper out, and verified that, as you're supposed to, on top of everything else, you would have trapped this error.
Yep.
But because of the time crunch and everything else that was going on, and email with the MEL to APU and all this stuff, he goes, could have happened to anyone. He goes, so at this point, we're going to consider the event closed. We're going to call this like a coaching counseling. He goes, it's not going in your permanent record. It's just a, hey, we talked to you kind of thing. And, I'm not worried that you guys will repeat this, because now that it's happened to you, now you're going to be a little extra sensitive and you're going to hopefully trap this error. He goes, but it's the number one ASAP is incorrect flight plan or departure procedure loaded into the box, into the flight management system, due to a revised segment by ATC on CPDLC equipped aircraft.
Well, I mean, that should be something that the company should be looking more into if this is coming out. I mean, like, if they're starting to see, more and more stuff happening like this, then
Yeah.
I mean, it's good. I'm not saying that like having this happen was like a good thing, right? It sucks. You guys did it, but you owned up to the mistake. Cool. But maybe this is good for analytics for the safety departments and stuff like that, to be able to go, oh, hey, we're seeing a trend of CPDLCs come out and changing, and it's like, it's not something that's prevalent. We need to start doing something about this.
Right. And he did say that the company is working on a fix. However, when you're dealing with a fix, every line that you have to change in communications, in a computer program, in a software, it involves coding, and coding needs to be tested and then beta tested and then third-party tested and all that stuff. So you're talking every line is hundreds of thousands of dollars of code. And if it takes thousands of lines of code, you can imagine how expensive just changing some simple printout on a PDC could be potentially. Yep. So that's what he explained. So, we got to Philadelphia uneventfully. We had an okay layover, and then we flew back home. Now, Philadelphia to Phoenix on day 4. Do you think that we went over that flight plan?
Oh, yes, you did.
Okay, we did. Now, we talked about it. We were okay with it. We're okay to continue. And the weather situation in Philadelphia was a line of embedded thunderstorms. We're headed towards Philadelphia.
Was that trip?
That was that trip.
Oh, Jesus.
So we're already had a long trip. We already had an incident where we got the Brasher warning. And we were like, yeah, we're not. And this was a stub flight.
What's a stub flight, Tony?
There you go. So we're supposed to be Legacy Flight 2300. But Legacy reuses flight numbers. So there's a flight that goes from Phoenix to Philadelphia, Flight 2300. Then the aircraft turns and goes right back to Phoenix. Same flight number, 2300. But what happens when the flight out of Phoenix to Philadelphia is delayed by more than a few hours? You can't have 2 flights in the air at the same time with the same flight number.
Yep.
So you the dispatcher will then designate your flight as a stub flight. So they remove the first number of the flight number and they replace the last with a letter. So we were, instead of 2300, we were 300R.
Mm.
So our flight number went from being Legacy 2300 to Legacy 300 Romeo. So, okay. Chalk one to the, potential distractors, right? The non-normals, the expectation bias that you were going to be called 2300. It's gone because now you are being called 300 Romeo. Now we're fighting the weather. So I tell the gate agent, hey, let's get out on time or early because we don't want to get stuck here. It's go home leg, and right now we have a 20-minute window from the TAF indicating that the weather is going to, go to crap here, and us being airborne. So we're ready to go. Everyone did a great job. Our gate agent was a nice young man. He did a great job. We closed the doors. Ready to, cabin secure. Okay to close. Yep. Okay. Then, all right. Bins are stowed. Everything's good. Ready to close the door. Yep. Okay. Arm the slides. Okay. Read the before takeout or before start checklist. Yep. Okay. Done. All right. Cockpit to ramp. Crickets. Cockpit to ramp. Crickets. All of a sudden we hear thunder. I look over and it's like, oh, it's kind of dark on that side of the airport. Now all the flashing lights are flashing blue all over the terminal. I'm like, oh crap. FO goes, what? I'm like, they just closed the ramp.
Stop.
At the same time, I hear, and I'm like, what's that noise? And ding dong, what's going on back there? Yeah, there's some woman out here. I think it's a gate agent, but it's not the guy who worked the flight. She's trying to get me to open the door, but we're already armed. I don't know what's going on. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what's going on either. I know the ramp's closed. Maybe they're trying to reopen it. Let me see if I can get a hold of her. I look out my side window and it's covered by the apron, so I can't really see what's going on in the jet bridge. So I dial in operations and I call operations. And as they answer, I notice that the gate agent now has removed the apron from the jet bridge and she's banging on my window. And I'm like, this is very unorthodox here. So I open up my window. I see this lady who's presumably a supervisor of some kind. She goes, they're not opening the door. I need the thumbs up before I can open the door. We need to get this door open so that we can restart the clock with the passengers. We got a ground stop and it's going to last 2 hours. And I'm like, okay, well, she doesn't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I'm not just going to open the door to somebody that's banging on the side of the airplane. This is not procedure.
Yeah.
I said, I will let her know and she can disarm the slides and we can go from there. So she turns around and closes the apron. Now I can't see what's going on in the jet bridge again. So I call it flight attendant. And I told her what she said and she's like, fine. So she disarms the door and, she says, stand by for all call, prepare for arrival, whatever, cross check, whatever she says. So I see all the slides are disarmed. The door opens. I open the cockpit door. I walk out there. I'm like, what's going on? She's gone. The supervisor lady that was banging on the door, she's gone. So the gate agent's there and he's like, yeah, that was my boss. I guess she wants to open the doors so that we, the clock, restarts on the, yeah. And I'm like, well, we never got on the clock. He's like, yeah, no, the passenger clock because they're going to, I'm like, are you going to deplane? Because, they've already been on this airplane 30 minutes. You're going to make them wait 2 hours and then we're going to fly for 5.5 hours. I mean, no, we're not allowed to deplane. She wants everybody on the airplane. I'm like, well, look, I'll babysit for like 45 minutes. But if the weather is going to continue, that's not okay with me because we're not getting paid right now. We're just sitting here doing some free babysitting. It's not, pardon the term, but, and I looked at the flight attendant and I'm like, are you okay with 45 minutes? She's like, no, that's fine. I'm like, she goes, if it goes much longer than that though, that's not cool. Like, I agree. So sure enough, as the weather passed over, now I called dispatch, told them what happened. And the dispatcher said, well, you're the captain. If you wanted to plane the airplane, deplane the airplane. He goes, but I'll tell you right now, it's a pretty fast moving storm. And it looks like probably 20, 30 minutes from now, you should be able to push off the gate. You guys are all ready to go. You're number one in line here. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that and I'll reassess. And if it gets something else pops up, I'll let you know. But sure. So sure enough, we were ready to go, and the ramp seems to get cleared up. It's not even raining anymore. The lights aren't flashing. So I call ops and I go, hey, is the ramp still closed? Because the lights aren't flashing. No, the ramp's still closed. So they hit the button, the lights start flashing again. The way it works is when the lightning detectors around the airport detect a lightning strike, they start a clock, 15 minutes. And the warning goes to ramp closure. So ramp closed means no people can be out on the ramp. They need to be taking shelter indoors. Nobody wants to be struck by lightning, right? There's a lot of metal out there. So there's no servicing of the aircraft. There's no fueling. There's no pushing back. There's nothing. So every time I'm like, hey, it's been 20 minutes. I haven't seen a lightning strike. It's not even raining. Is the ramp still closed?
Yeah,
And
still closed. Still closed.
It's still closed. And they push the button and the lights start flashing again for 15 more minutes. So finally, like on the radar, all the weather's past the airport. I send a message to our dispatcher saying, "Hey, it looks like the ramp's open. Is anyone like there? Yeah, they're starting to take off, but the ramp is still closed because whatever reason. But they are departing. Like, okay. So long story.
Long story, even longer.
Even longer. After being on the aircraft for an hour and 50 minutes, 5 more minutes, and I was going, that's it, I'm done. I don't care if they're opening the ramp in 5 minutes. We're done. 2 hours, it's enough. They're doing water service. They're trying to keep everybody happy. I'm making PAs. Now passengers like, I want off the plane. I'm done. I'm not going to make my connection, so I want off the plane. So now I'm gate agent down here, and it's fine. So finally, we're like, okay, the ramp's reopen. And so I call ops and I go, hey, the ramp's open. Let's can we get a push crew out here? It's going to take some time to get your airplane service. I'm like, no, you don't understand. People are onboarded. We've been boarded. We have the fuel. We don't need more fuel. We just need a ramp crew to push. We're out of here. Oh, okay. So we finally get pushed, and there's a long line of airplanes out there on the taxiway that are waiting for a gate. And there are also a long line of airplanes that are waiting to get rerouted. And I already talked to my dispatcher and saying, hey, the route you'd had me going on, flying south for 300 miles before we make a sharp right turn to head westbound, that's all full of weather now. So he's like, I'm not going to reroute you. He goes, if I reroute you, you're then going to get a new slot time or you're going to basically come out of line. He goes, you're number one in line. He goes, let ATC reroute you. You have plenty of fuel if you're going to go direct. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Don't put in the reroute. I'll have ATC reroute it. He was like, you got chartered routes on there. I'm like, okay. So sure enough, as we're taxiing out, they parked us out on some area and they're like, hey, I have a full route reroute. Do you have chartered route? I think it was Philly, Phoenix, Papa Hotel. And I said, oh, stand by, let me check. So we're looking in the flight plan, and sure enough, there it is. We looked at it, we plugged it all in, and we had plenty of fuel. So, and they even have their min takeoff numbers and everything in there. So I was like, yes, we have that route. It's loaded in the box. We're ready to taxi. And he goes, okay, contact ground, and they'll sequence you in. We were the third flight to get off the ground. And so we get off the ground and we go, and we're en route, and we're tired. It's been a long trip. We've been delayed 2 hours. And I look at my FO and I'm like, brother, we earned our money this week, even with the issues that we had. Yeah. We ended up landing a couple hours behind schedule. So, this is what you can expect. That's why you get paid the big bucks. You don't get paid the big bucks because you get to fly big airplanes around. You get to get paid the big bucks because you are supposed to trap the errors. You're supposed to keep everybody safe. You're supposed to be able to use that noggin with all the information that you've learned over the last so many years. And you're supposed to make sound decisions that will inevitably produce a safe outcome and get everybody to where they want to be.
Mm-hmm. The one thing that I really learned in captain upgrade schools is, especially in DNR, was we operate in black and white. At least the FOs operate in black and white. The captains operate in that entire gray area in between that we need to. Basically, what you're saying is there are so many different variables, so many different things that can change and do that. Is this legal? Can we do it this way? Oh, let ATC give us the reroute. Okay, cool. Like, yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's figure it out.
Yep. And then, you think about these reroutes sometimes, just like, all right, we know we're heavy. We know we can take off heavy, but we got a route to avoid weather that maybe was 300 or 400 miles more than usual. And now by the time you took off, because you've been sitting on the ramp with the engine shut down, you took off with all the fuel you originally had. You got plenty of fuel, but now when you land, are you going to be over max landing weight?
That actually just happened to me recently. We had a reroute because there was weather supposedly in Lafayette, and the route that they had us go was going down Dallas, basically to Houston, and then over to Lafayette. However, we got a reroute on our PDC that had us go basically more direct, and the fuel had already been loaded, and it's a pain in the ass to defuel for us. So I'm like, well, let's just keep it out. And it was my leg, so I just flew with boards out, had the APU burning, like anything I could do. And then I'm watching that ticker just click and click and click. And then finally we hit below max landing weight. And I'm like, I don't care at this point. We're good. I'll stow the boards. Like we got it.
Yeah. What's the closest you've ever come to max? Like, how many pounds under max landing weight have you landed with?
That one was about 500 for me. And that's really close for us. The closest that I think I ever come was like 100 pounds. Like, and we had to,
yeah.
We had to do the full procedure turn going into Lexington to be able to make that one work. Like, did I take the radar vectors for the ILS? Like, I pinged ATC and like, we need to do this procedure turn because if we don't, we will be landing overweight. And they're like, you want to do the procedure turn? Or normally the 172s just do the procedure turn. We're like, yes, we need to do this procedure turn.
Right. Did I talk about the heavy landing in the last podcast? I don't think so, because it happened after that for me.
I don't know. Tony, I remember everything just blends together at this point.
Yeah, that's true, especially as you get older. Well, I'll finish on this story and then we can talk a little bit about commuting and schedules, but before we wrap it up. But I had a very, just like you said, we all do it. And you really have to be good at calculating, zero fuel weight plus planned arrival fuel equals landing fuel, right? So you have to make sure you're ahead of the game, because the last thing you want to do is tell a controller that, sorry, we're too heavy to land. It's like, well, now I got like 20 airplanes in front of you and 20 airplanes behind you. I don't know where to put you now, right? So you got to tell them when you're, no less than 150 miles out. You're supposed to tell them. Mm-hmm. And so we take off. I forget the exact details of it, but we take off. We're going to Dallas, Fort Worth, and there's weather. And there's so much weather in Dallas area that from the east, we're going to fly past Dallas and then do kind of a U-turn around the weather and approach Dallas from the west. And plus we had alternates, 2 alternates at that. So we take off, we're heavy, flying across the country. And when we're about 500 miles or 600 miles away from Dallas, not even our ETP, I think it was before. We're at like 36,000 feet, and they're like, yeah, here's the reroute. So plug in the reroute. I'm looking at the landing fuel, and most of the time we just go, okay, cool, reroute. Right, okay. But something told me in the back of my head, I'm like, we were heavy to begin with. We had a lot of extra fuel. This just shaved hundreds of miles off our trip. Let me run this calculation. So I did zero fuel weight plus what the FMS said our anticipated landing fuel was going to be. And I went, oh. And FO went, what? And I went, we're 2,500 pounds heavier than we can be. There's no way we can burn 2,500 pounds more. We only have like an hour and 20 minutes left in the flight. And he goes, what do you want to do? I'm like, ask for 12,000 feet. He goes, are you serious? I went, ask for 12,000 feet. Yep. Well, you're going to be too heavy. Or we can hold for an hour, because you don't burn that much when you're holding at altitude. Yep. So he said, hey, we're going to be way too heavy with this reroute. We're going to request lower. And ATC goes, sure, what do you want? And he says 12,000 feet. And ATC went, what? He goes,
Uh,
we need 12,000 feet.
yeah.
So sure enough, we went down to 12,000 feet and we flew that for an hour and 20 minutes. And so it was nice because we got a nice view of the ground, but there was weather. And so everybody above us that was complaining about moderate turbulence and deviations left, deviations right, we were down at 12,000 feet, seatbelt sign off, putzing along, nice, mostly smooth air. And as we got a little closer, I recalculated and I went, we're still like almost 800 pounds over max landing weight, which is not a lot, but we now are within 150 nautical miles of the airport. We need to let center know. And we told center, look, we're still kind of heavy and I think we can make it work, but we're going to need either a long final or something. And he's like, well, I can get you lower. And I'm like, what do you want? I'm like, let's get 10,000 feet, 250 knots and put the gear down.
Yeah.
So we were 30 miles from the airport at 10,000 feet with the gear down. And I made a PA and I said, look, folks, we got to reroute. We either got to go hold for 30 minutes or we're going to drop the gear. That extra drag is going to burn the fuel. We're going to be able to land, as close to on time as possible. So, it's going to get a little noisy back there, but rest assured, it's fine. So I dropped the gear and we're putzing along at 250 knots, 10,000 feet with the gear out. And we're like on a 20-mile downwind. And FO is just like, now his eyes are big. He's looking at the numbers and he's like, bro, I think we're still heavy. I'm like, yeah, I show we're like 300 pounds heavy still. So I'm like, when we're on downwind, ask them if we can get an extended final and slow to our, I'll put everything out, all the boards, all the flaps out, or if we can get like a box pattern or something. And so we're basically beam the numbers on 17 center and he says, hey, can we get an extended downwind? And he's like, well, how much do you need? I'm like, well, what are you giving people right now? And he goes, well, we're giving people like 15-mile final. Is that going to work for you? He goes, I can give you 20. And I look at it and I go, nah, I think we need a box pattern. He goes, all right, if I give you a box pattern, will it work? I'm like, okay, sure.
Maybe we'll see.
So he goes, all right, I'll give you a box pattern. So he gives us headings. We let the guy behind us in front of us, basically.
Yeah.
And so now we're back in line, and now we're shooting. We're turning final, pick it up, clear the visual, localizer, glide slope, intercept. Here we are, putzing down at fully configured, just like, looking at it. And I'm like, oh, we're going to be fine. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, we're going to be fine. He goes, oh, okay. Like he didn't believe me.
Yeah.
So he's like, 1,000 feet, stable, 200 over. 500 feet, stable, 100 over.
Jeez.
200 minimums. There's our landing weight. I landed with, like, according to the engine warning display, the lower ECAM, exactly at our max landing weight. And it was a soft landing, and we used up quite a bit of runway because we were heavy, but yeah, it didn't have to fill a report or anything, and no logbook entries because we landed and it was fine. But yeah, my limit, I've landed at 0 pounds under max landing weight. This was like 3-4 weeks
Got it. Yeah.
It is what it is, and you have to plan for these contingencies, and that's that gray area you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like the checklists are black and white. Yeah, okay, I get it. The SOPs and the limitations are all black and white. Yeah, okay, that's fine. But what happens when you're in the gray area? You have to use your superior knowledge to prevent you from having to use your superior skills. How's that go?
Oh God, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And that's a result of change in behavior as a result of experience. That's the definition of learning. Oh, we done learned something that day.
Yep.
But anyway, this show is running long, folks. It's been a few months, and well, Alex and I can talk forever until you're blue in the face. But Alex, I wanted to finish up with asking you a little bit about how your schedules and commuting have been now that you've upgraded. And your seniority now, you're kind of towards the bottom of the seniority list, but not really because you did wait to upgrade. So,
Yep.
like, how's that been in commuting from Lubbock to DFW?
So if obviously everybody knows I ended up moving out to the Dallas area, went through divorce and moved out to the Lubbock area. Um, I always told myself if I was ever going to commute again, it would be hour and a half, same time zone, right? Like, because I, Tony knows I've been on a couple Tony's flights commuting out of California out to Dallas, and that's rough. Like I did it for a year, and I know Tony, will say he did it for 12 or whatever he did to do it to Chicago. But man, that eats at your life. Like, and I mean, it's realistically another full time job in just commuting itself. So, um, moving to Lubbock hasn't been bad. The commute's not bad. There's 7 or 8 flights a day. Um, Sandpiper wants you to do at least two good faith efforts to make a commute in before enacting what we call a commuter policy, which the commuter policy basically they kind of give you, I think it's up to 6 in a rolling calendar year of, no harm, no foul. We'll just sequence you in
Mm.
when you can get back in on the sequence, which is fine. Um, haven't had to use that yet. Knock on wood, here as a captain. I when I did the first month as a captain, I was on reserve, and it was pretty much like I went out there and I was used. You know what I mean? Like I was used, but it was more like the easiest way I can describe it is I was their bitch for the month that I was there because
Right.
like that we just they use you. They're going to. They need you. They need captains. So they use and abuse you,
Right.
which it's nature of the beast. But the reason why I held out was because I didn't want to. I could have upgraded. I don't know, about a year ago, but that was right at the time that I was, starting the divorce process and all that stuff, and just like I wasn't in the mindset to be able to go deal with that and deal with upgrade training and all that stuff. So I held out, and also at the time there was no open vacancies in Dallas. So I wanted to wait till I could get back to Dallas or get Dallas as you know, as a bid so that I didn't have to commute, whether that was from Dallas to Chicago or, then the horizon came up with Lubbock, and I didn't want to have to commute from Lubbock to Chicago, which means you have to go through Dallas to Chicago. So, and that again, that takes more of your day, right? Like commuting and Tony, you did it for a little bit and you understand it. The end of the trip, it's all well and good, but you got to maybe wait like a couple hours for that next flight to be able to go home.
Right.
So, and that's where I was at. But now I've got a line this month, and I don't know what it's going to do for me next month because someone over here is going to screw up my schedule next month.
Well, bid the high timeline so that then you can take the maternity and take the pay credit.
Well, we don't get maternity pay.
What?
It's 12 weeks of unpaid.
Oh.
Yeah, our contract sucks.
Oh, you want to be home the first at
Yeah,
least
I'm
weeks.
going to. I have 2 weeks of vacation, and plus my sick time should be able to cover me for a month. So I'm gonna try to take the month off, and that way I can be here for that like first month of bonding.
Yeah.
So, but after that, then I'm gonna go back. But
Well, you got to go back to work so you can sleep.
yeah, that too. But so that's kind of where I'm at. Is I'm holding a line in Dallas. It's not the greatest of lines, but I'm able to get at least this month. I was able to get Thursday, Friday, Saturdays off, which is nice. So I work Sunday through Wednesdays. I don't know what next month will be because obviously with the baby and all that stuff, coming, it's going to change everything. But it's just the thing with scheduling is seniority is what drives everything in our company. And the sad part is for someone in a regular 9 to 5 is you can work 20 years as an accountant, and then they go, oh, hey, well, your services are no longer needed. Or you can go, I don't like the way you guys are treating me. I'm going to go take my 20 years of experience and go, instead of being at XYZ, now I'm going to go be at ABC. And you can walk in and they say, cool, you've been an accountant for 20 years. Let's bring you in at, this level of an accountant. Doesn't matter for us. We can have, 20 years of experience. And if Tony were decided he wanted to leave legacy for Acme Airlines, Tony would go all the way down to the bottom and start all over again.
Right. And it traps people.
Mm-hmm.
It traps them. I mean, you always have the choice.
Yeah.
You always have the choice, but you have to be willing to start over. Now, once you have a couple years of seniority under your belt, sometimes it's like not worth it. It's just not worth it. So you decide to commute, and I love it when people go, well, why are you commuting? Why don't you just go fly for Delta? Like, well, I've got 15 years with this company. Why would I go to that company and start over again and start to pay at the bottom? So we've been talking about national seniority lists since deregulation. Okay, and it's just not going to happen. The only thing that could potentially happen, and I did fly with a first officer who was from, I think it was from South Africa. And he was talking about how we could revolutionize the way pilots get paid if you paid them a percentage of ticket sales.
Mm-hmm.
And you contract out the pilots. So the pilots say, your pilot group, if every airline in the United States is required to contract out pilots through, say, ALPA, for example, National Pilots Union. And so you work for a pilots union. If you have 10,000 hours on an Airbus, you're going to get paid a 10,000 hour Airbus scale. And if say United needs 2,000 pilots tomorrow, they go to the union. They go, we need two pilots, 2,000 pilots for the next 24 months at our airline, and we'll pay scale. Okay. So then you show up, you go through their little training, and bam. Then at the end of it, if you go, we like you, we're going to keep you, we're going to renew your contract. Okay, fine. The union pays for you, and then the company pays as a portion of ticket sales. So part of that ticket sale goes to the pilot. Now the company's not paying for you. They're giving you a portion of positive sales. And the way he explained it, he goes, so right now pilots get paid between 200 to 400,000 a year for narrow to wide body experience at a legacy carrier. They'll probably get paid more to 500,000 to 600,000 a year. And he had all the numbers, and I was like, how do you even make this work? This is too drastic. No one will go. People are scared to make change, number one. And how would you make this work? He's like, well, the whole system has to change.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, there's some interesting theories out there on how things can change to where we could go from carrier to carrier and still get paid the same. I think a contract out national union is the way to go, but hey. But I digress. I know you have movies to go to, right?
Later tonight. We just got to go to the grocery store. I need to get some stuff for my upcoming trip.
Yeah. Well, Alex, it's been a pleasure. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, but to all the dads out there, if you have fatherly advice, for especially a daughter raising, please send feedback to the show.
Yeah.
I know there's like 8 listeners, and probably one of them's got at least a female daughter. So
yeah. Now we joked around with you earlier in the week about what to expect as a dad, especially a new dad, and a daddy-daughter dad.
yeah.
Some great books out there. One book that I obviously recommend to everyone, and it's not like the holy grail of books, but it is definitely a good book, and it's really changed the way I communicate with everyone. It's Crucial Conversations. It's a great book. You can find it on Amazon pretty cheap. Another great book is for you, Alex, Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters. Kind of teaches you, what daughters look at when they look at their dad, what they expect, who they're going to end up with. Is it someone who is like my dad, or is it someone that represents my dad, or what?
Who's completely not my dad.
Possible. So, there's so much out there. The I think Kyle was saying in our group chat, there's so many books and so much advice out there. Burn it all because it's a crapshoot, and you just have to make the best of it, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I thought that was fantastic advice from a young man.
I think that's kind of what happens is everybody gets overloaded with everything, and you can read books, but every kid is different. Every situation is different. Kind of going into that gray area with flying, like no two events in flying are going to be the exact same. So how do you handle one child is going to be completely different than how you handle another child.
Yeah. True that. That.
So.
All right, brother. Well, in that case, let's wrap up the show today by just saying thank you to Alex D for joining me today. Thank you for all of you out there who are so loyal and listening, and I appreciate it. Again, we really love sharing this podcast with all of you online, and we hope that you do it as well with your friends and let people know that we're here. And, I love it. I love this podcasting thing. It's great. Great way to just have a conversation and get it out there. Please be sure to subscribe and follow the Squawk Ident Podcast on whatever platform you are listening on. You can also follow us right on our website, aviatortony.com. That's Alpha Victor, the number 8, Romeo Tango Oscar November Yankee.com. You can send us an email, provide audio feedback. You can even support us. A couple bucks here and there sure does help out. We also love receiving listener feedback. So please send those in. We love the audios because then we can play them on the show, or just send us an email. We'd appreciate it. You can also find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and just search the Squawk Ident Podcast. One final thank you to all of you for taking the time to listen to these grateful aviators. Keep the dirty side down out there. Keep safe and take care of each other. Bye, y'all.
Yeah.
Get off the frequency, Delta.
How soon can you land? I can't tell. You can tell me, I'm a doctor. No, I mean, I'm just not sure.
Do you know anything about planes?
Can you fly this plane and land it?
It's an entirely different kind of flying.